Logan hit the ground hard, sand and rubble exploding around him as he rolled across the cracked asphalt. His claws were sheathed, but his senses were fully awake, every nerve screaming that this wasn't any battlefield he'd ever known. The sky above shimmered with strange, unnatural light, and a faint hum of energy tickled the air. Something in the smell of the wind told him he wasn't just in another ruined city, he was somewhere else entirely. Ozone and burnt metal mingled with something wrong. Rot, decay, fear. Logan's amber eyes scanned the horizon, instincts twitching. He had survived worse, but nothing like this. Nothing like this. He didn't get a chance to catch his breath. A group of ghouls burst from a collapsed overpass, skin flaking and eyes wide with hunger. Logan growled, claws sliding free with a familiar snicked sound that promised pain to anyone who dared him. The first ghoul lunged, and he met it mid-air with a swipe that cut through the thing's chest. Another screamed and charged, and Logan ducked, rolling under its swing, slashing it down in one motion. The third swung a jagged metal shard, cutting deep across his side, but the flesh knitted instantly. He flexed his claws, eyes narrowed, and carved a path through the snarling, relentless attackers. The air was thick with blood and rust, the smell clinging to his senses like a perfume, and he reveled in it. Fighting was what he did. Survival was what he was. Then he heard her before he saw her. "Hey, wait, who are you?" a woman's voice shouted, full of fear and determination. Logan froze mid-swipe, ears twitching. She stepped into view, camera swinging in her hands, notebook clutched to her chest. Brown hair whipped across her face, but her eyes were sharp. "I'm Piper Wright," she said, voice trembling. I cover strange things. And you're not from here, are you?" Logan sniffed. She smelled like smoke, sweat, and trouble. "Not your problem," he growled, wiping his claw on a piece of rubble. "And you talk too much." Her eyes went wide, and she took another cautious step forward. I think you're going to want to know about this place," she said, and before Logan could reply, the ground beneath the overpass groaned. Dust and gravel rained down as a shadow moved, massive and fast, and the smell hit him first, musky, predatory, terrifying. Logan's claws extended fully, sniped. He crouched, low, ready. The Deathclaw burst from the ruins, larger than any predator he had ever faced. Muscles rippled under dark, armored scales, eyes glowing with feral intelligence. Its claws scraped the concrete, sparks flying where it struck metal debris. Piper screamed. Logan didn't hesitate. He ran straight at it, claws flashing, and the Deathclaw lunged. He dodged a tail sweep, rolled under a massive swipe, and slashed upward, cutting through thick scales. Sparks flew, blood sprayed, and the creature roared, shaking the cracked asphalt. Logan grinned under his beard, amber eyes cold and calculating. This was what he lived for. Pain, damage, death. It barely mattered. He sliced again, tearing a limb, feeling the creature test him with every strike. The ghouls lay shredded behind him. The Deathclaw was a monster, but so was he. Piper stumbled, trying to stay behind cover while filming every second. "He's healing! It's impossible!" she gasped. Logan didn't answer. He didn't have to. The gash on his shoulder from an earlier swing had already vanished. Flesh knitted together like nothing had happened. He ducked another blow, rolled along the ground, and came up on the Deathclaw's flank, driving claws deep into its armored chest. The creature bellowed, swinging wildly, but Logan stayed calm, precise, unstoppable. The smell of its blood mixed with the ozone-charged air, filling his senses, making him sharper, faster, angrier. The ground trembled with every step the Deathclaw took. Logan ducked and twisted, taking a hit across his back that would have felled any normal man, and he only growled. The creature's roar split the air, deafening, but he advanced, claws flashing in the dim radioactive light. Piper kept filming, wide-eyed, muttering under her breath. Logan flicked a glance at her, his voice low and guttural. "You got a death wish, little lady. Stay behind me." She nodded frantically, keeping her distance but refusing to run. She smelled fear, but she smelled awe too. Another swing from the Deathclaw sent dust flying in Logan's face. He blocked, countered, and slashed again, blood and scales flying. His regeneration was already working, and every strike he landed left him stronger, more confident. He twisted, grabbed a jagged piece of concrete, and slammed it into the creature's side, toppling it slightly. It roared in frustration, but Logan grinned, claws dripping with fresh blood. "Not bad for a Monday," he muttered. The creature lunged again, and Logan met it head-on, his claws tearing into the Deathclaw's chest with unstoppable force. Sparks flew, flesh ripped, and the battle was far from over, but one thing was clear. This world wasn't ready for Wolverine. The ghouls had been forgotten. Piper was wide-eyed, and the Deathclaw had realized its prey was something it couldn't kill easily. Logan stood in the dust, claws dripping, breathing steady despite the chaos. He looked at the ruined highway, at the shattered city beyond, and knew one thing. He was going to carve his path through this world, one monster at a time. Logan stepped over the fallen Deathclaw, claws still out, blood smeared across his forearms. The beast was down but not dead, thrashing weakly against the cracked asphalt. Piper crouched behind a crumbling guardrail, camera shaking in her hands. I can't believe it," she stammered. You just tore that thing apart, and you healed?" Wolverine didn't answer, only glanced at her with a low growl. "Keep your mouth shut and move," he said, sheathing his claws. The moment the words left his mouth, movement flickered in the ruined city beyond the highway. He sniffed the air, metal, dust, sweat, and something human. Someone was approaching, someone armed. A figure stepped out cautiously. A man with a long coat, rifle slung across his shoulder, eyes sharp beneath the brim of a battered hat. Logan's senses flared. Fallout survivor, not hostile, not yet. But he could smell fear, determination, and trust. The man raised his hand slowly. Hey, easy there," he said. "Name's the lone survivor. You're not from around here, are you?" Logan's amber eyes narrowed. "You got a death wish talking to me," he growled. The survivor froze for a heartbeat but didn't back down. Piper whispered something, probably cursing under her breath, but Logan ignored her. "You smell like trouble," he said, "and bad aim." The survivor chuckled nervously. You're Logan, aren't you? Wolverine." Logan's eyes flicked toward her, then back at the man. "Names don't matter in a place like this," he said. "Keep up or die." Before the survivor could respond, a low mechanical whir echoed from behind a pile of rubble. Logan spun, claws out again. From the shadows, a pair of NCR Securitron units rolled into view, guns spinning, sensors glowing. "Unauthorized life form detected," one of them buzzed in monotone. Logan grinned, teeth bared. "Just what I needed." The machines fired. Energy bolts seared through the air, sparks bouncing off twisted metal, dust rising like a storm. Logan's reflexes were faster than anything the Securitrons anticipated. He leapt, claws ripping through the first unit, slicing the barrel and circuitry clean. Sparks erupted. The second robot swung its arm to strike, but Logan sidestepped, claws embedding deep in its armor, Tearing metal like paper, the survivor dove behind a broken overpass, eyes wide. "Holy, he's unstoppable!" Piper stepped out from cover, still filming. "Logan, please, you can't just—" She stopped mid-sentence as a group of super mutants appeared on the horizon, drawn by the noise of battle. They grunted and shouted, massive fists swinging, weapons raised. Logan growled, crouching low. "Looks like I've got more company." He sprinted toward the closest mutant, claws slicing through steel pipes and flesh simultaneously. The mutant swung a massive sledgehammer, but Logan ducked under the blow and ripped through its armor, the metal bending against his adamantium claws like tinfoil. Another mutant charged, but Logan slammed a foot into its chest, sending it flying into the rubble of a collapsed freeway. Sparks flew, metal screamed, and Logan's senses tracked every movement, every breath, every heartbeat. Piper gasped. "He's insane! This isn't even a fight, it's carnage!" The lone survivor ducked another swipe and yelled, "Logan, don't draw too much attention! Brotherhood scouts are probably already—" His words were cut short by a shrill whistle of laser fire from above. Logan turned, claws flashing. A Brotherhood of Steel patrol had arrived, hovering on vertibirds, energy rifles locked on him. Logan smirked, wiping blood from a claw. "Oh, now it gets fun." He leapt toward the nearest vertibird, claws catching the hull, tearing metal with a screech. The pilot screamed, losing control, and the craft tipped violently, slamming into the ruins below. Sparks, fire, and twisted steel rained around him. He landed lightly, crouched, eyes scanning the battlefield. "All right, little lady," he said to Piper, who was wide-eyed and still filming. "Time to move before they send more." The lone survivor nodded, pushing Piper behind him. Logan led them through the twisted streets, dodging scattered gunfire and mutant patrols. Every step left a trail of carnage behind him. Super mutants ripped apart, Brotherhood turrets shredded, NCR Securitrons reduced to smoking heaps. Yet the Wasteland didn't feel conquered. It felt alive, dangerous, and unrelenting. Suddenly, the ground trembled violently. Logan froze, sniffing the air. Piper squeaked. "No, it can't be!" From a collapsed tunnel nearby, another Deathclaw emerged, larger and faster than the last. Its claws scraped the concrete as it roared, a bone-chilling sound that echoed across the ruins. Logan's grin returned, teeth bared. "Looks like my morning just got interesting," he muttered. He sprinted forward, claws out, eyes locked on the beast. The Deathclaw charged, and Logan met it head-on, claws raking scales, sparks flying where metal met armored flesh. Piper shouted, "Logan, be careful!" The lone survivor leveled his rifle, firing shots, but Logan's movements were faster than the bullets could track. The Deathclaw swiped, tail smashing against rubble, but Logan ducked, slashing with precision. The beast roared, powerful enough to shake the asphalt beneath them. But Logan's healing and sheer fury allowed him to keep going, tearing into its limbs, blood mixing with dust and ozone. As the fight raged, Logan's mind was already calculating the next moves. Brotherhood scouts, NCR machines, super mutants, they were all watching now. This world was dangerous, chaotic, and filled with predators. But Logan didn't care. One thing was certain, he wasn't leaving without carving his mark. Piper kept filming, wide-eyed and trembling, capturing the unstoppable force that was Wolverine in the fallout wasteland. And somewhere deep beneath the rubble, the Deathclaw's glowing eyes met his, a challenge neither had faced before. Logan's claws flexed. "You picked the wrong world to mess with," he growled, charging again. And the battle was just beginning. The Deathclaw roared, a sound like the world itself tearing apart, and the ground beneath Logan's feet shook with each step it took. He crouched low, claws extended, eyes locked on the creature's glowing, predatory gaze. Piper's camera shook in her hands as she ducked behind the rubble, trying to keep filming without getting herself torn apart. It's enormous," she yelled. "Logan, you can't?" "I don't need luck," Logan growled, launching himself forward. He struck the Deathclaw mid-charge, claws raking through its thick scales, sparks flying as adamantium met armored flesh. The creature shrieked, twisting to swipe at him with massive talons. Logan rolled under the swing, snapping out his claws to slice through the joint of its forearm. The limb collapsed with a metallic crack, but the beast didn't slow. It lashed its tail, knocking over a rusted lamppost that came crashing down inches from Piper. She stumbled but held her ground, wide-eyed. The lone survivor fired his rifle from behind a concrete barricade, rounds pinging off the Deathclaw's armor. "Aim for the head!" he shouted. Logan glanced at him, one eyebrow raised, and then spun into action. He leapt onto the creature's back, claws digging into its spine. The Deathclaw thrashed violently, trying to fling him off, but Logan held on, letting his healing factor absorb every minor injury as bone and muscle tore and stitched instantly. "Holy, he's insane," the survivor muttered under his breath. "He's actually insane." From above, the whirring of vertibird engines cut through the chaos. Brotherhood of Steel soldiers swooped in, energy rifles locked on Logan. "Don't let him escape," one shouted. Logan snorted and slashed one vertibird's undercarriage mid-flight, sending it spiraling into a pile of rubble. Sparks, fire, and debris rained down. He landed on his feet, claws dripping, and immediately turned his attention back to the Deathclaw. Piper crouched low, muttering to herself, This is the story of a lifetime. No one's going to believe this." Logan flicked a glance at her, teeth bared. "Then make sure they do." The Deathclaw's massive claw swung at him again. Logan ducked, sidestepped, and drove his claws into its shoulder joint. Metal and bone screamed as he twisted, ripping the limb partially free. The beast's roar shook the crumbling highway. Its tail whipped, catching Logan across the chest. A sharp pain flared, but he barely noticed. The flesh knitted instantly. "Tough bugger," Logan muttered, "but not tough enough." Suddenly, more threats emerged. Two super mutants, drawn by the noise of battle, charged. One swung a sledgehammer the size of a car axle. Logan leapt over it, spinning mid-air, claws slicing clean through armor and flesh. The other mutant reached him from behind, but a swipe of his claws sent the creature flying into a ruined overpass. Sparks and blood painted the air. "You're in my world now, bub," Logan growled. The Deathclaw lunged again, catching him with its tail and slamming him into a pile of debris. Logan rolled, claws flashing, slicing a clean line along its jaw. The beast bellowed, fury and pain mixing into a single terrifying sound. Piper yelled, "Watch out, it's—" But Logan had already leapt onto the Deathclaw's back again. He dug his claws deep into its shoulders, slicing through muscle and reinforced bone, and twisted hard. The creature screamed, thrashing, trying to shake him off. The lone survivor fired round after round, but the bullets bounced harmlessly against Logan's prey. "Aim for the weak spots!" he shouted. Logan growled, spinning his claws in a deadly arc. "Don't worry, I got this!" He slashed through the beast's forearm and its remaining leg, sending it crashing into the asphalt, skidding across the broken highway. Dust, blood, and sparks filled the air. The creature rose on its hind legs, roaring, bleeding, but still alive. Then Logan jumped off, landing lightly in front of it, claws out, breathing steady. "All right, bub," he said, grin flashing beneath his beard. "Time to end this!" The Deathclaw lunged one last time. Logan sidestepped, drove his claws straight through its chest, pivoted, and ripped clean through the heart and spine. The beast collapsed in a heap, thrashing weakly, letting out one final guttural roar. Logan withdrew his claws, wiping them clean on the rubble. Piper's camera was trembling, hands shaking. This is insane. Logan's voice cut through to the chaos, low and deadly calm. "Yeah, and this is just the start." He turned toward the lone survivor. "Move, before the others show up." The survivor nodded, still wide-eyed. "Others? You mean Brotherhood? Enclave?" Logan didn't answer. He sniffed the air. Energy readings, metallic smells, gunfire in the distance. Somewhere beyond the ruined highway, Brotherhood scouts were moving in. Enclave operatives were taking notes from afar, and NCR Securitrons were already responding to the massive disturbance. The Wasteland was alive with predators, but Logan didn't care. He thrived on danger, thrived on carnage, thrived on proving that nothing, no mutant, machine, or soldier could stop him. Piper followed him cautiously. You're not like anyone I've ever seen." Logan smirked faintly, claws retracting. "You haven't seen anything yet, bub. Stick close if you want to survive, and keep filming. People need to know what just happened here." The Deathclaw's lifeless body sprawled across the highway, a stark reminder that the Wasteland wasn't just dangerous. It was alive, and now it had met its match. Logan's amber eyes scanned the horizon, muscles tensed, instincts humming. Somewhere in the distance, more threats were coming, and Logan was ready. He always was. Logan moved through the ruins like a predator, muscles coiled, claws flexed. Behind him, Piper struggled to keep pace, camera bouncing against her chest, notebook in hand. The lone survivor trailed cautiously, rifle ready, scanning every shadow, every twisted piece of concrete. The Deathclaw's body lay in the middle of the cracked highway, a monstrous pile of gore, but Logan didn't slow. The Wasteland was alive, and somewhere beyond the rubble, more dangers were closing in. A distant hum made Logan pause. His ears twitched. Energy signatures, fast, mechanical, and armed. Brotherhood of Steel patrols, vertibirds glinting in the ruined sunlight, were moving in, and somewhere further NCR Securitrons activated, rolling over debris, sensors glowing. Logan flexed his claws, amber eyes scanning every direction. "Guess they finally noticed me," he muttered under his breath, voice low and lethal. Piper whispered, "Logan, do we fight them?" She sounded scared, but awe lingered in her tone. Logan didn't answer. He had no time for words. Every muscle tensed. Survival was instinct, and action was his language. The first vertibird descended, firing pulses of energy. Sparks flew off the rubble where they landed, and the lone survivor shouted, "Take cover!" But Logan didn't cover. He leapt, claws extended, meeting the first energy blast mid-air. He twisted, letting the pulse glance off his adamantium skeleton, and slashed at the vertibird's undercarriage. Metal screamed. The craft tipped violently, engines flaring, and spiraled into a pile of ruins. Logan landed lightly, crouched, ready for the next attack. The Securitrons rolled in, laser cannons spinning. One fired a bolt that would have shattered any ordinary human. Logan sidestepped, claws flashing, cutting through its armor like paper. Sparks and molten metal sprayed across the rubble. The second Securitron swung its arm to strike, but Logan ducked, twisting his body, and tore through its circuitry. The machines exploded in showers of metal fragments and fire, and Logan grinned. "Not bad," he muttered. From above, the shrill whine of vertibird engines cut through the chaos again. Brotherhood soldiers began firing from the air and from the rooftops, energy rifles streaking across the irradiated sky. Logan lunged, spinning claws, cutting through gunmetal, shredding weapons, tearing away metal plating. Piper ducked behind a chunk of concrete, whispering frantically into her camera. This isn't real. He's not real." The lone survivor took a breath, trying to reload his rifle. "He's unstoppable. Logan, you can't just—" But Logan was already moving. He leapt onto a collapsed overpass, launching himself into the air towards a squad of super mutants who had just arrived, drawn by the noise of battle. His claws cut through reinforced armor, ripping limbs apart, the mutants screaming and crashing to the ground. Logan landed amid the chaos, claws still dripping with molten metal and blood. "I said stay close if you want to survive," he said to Piper, voice calm, deadly. She nodded, fear and awe mixing in her wide eyes. The lone survivor muttered something under his breath about insane regeneration, unstoppable healing, and Wolverine being a walking weapon. Logan just smiled faintly, wiping his claws on the rubble. "You think you've seen it all. You haven't." Then a loud roar echoed from a nearby tunnel. Logan's head snapped toward the sound. The air trembled as another Deathclaw emerged, larger than the first, scarred from previous fights, but still deadly. Glowing eyes locked on him. Logan's grin widened. "Guess my day just got better," he said. He crouched, muscles tensing, claws ready, and leapt. The Deathclaw charged, jaws snapping, tail whipping through concrete. Logan rolled under a strike, slicing into its shoulder, sparks flying where adamantium met hardened scales. The beast swiped again. He dodged, countering with a lethal kick that sent it sprawling into debris. Piper gasped, camera trembling. He's doing it again! How is he still alive?" The Brotherhood soldiers began to regroup, forming a perimeter. "Target that mutant!" one shouted, unaware that Logan was far beyond being just a mutant. They were facing a force of nature. Logan sliced through a vertibird's landing strut, sending it crashing into the street, flames igniting the dry, irradiated rubble. Super mutants tried to flank him, but he was faster, stronger, deadlier. Every strike left them shredded, sparks and blood painting the air. A stray Enclave scout emerged from a ruined building holding a strange device. He tried to scan Logan, but Wolverine's claws tore through the metal device before it could finish transmitting data. Logan's amber eyes glinted. "Try that again, bub," he said low, voice like steel, "and you'll wish you didn't." The lone survivor shouted over the chaos, "Piper, get down!" But Logan had already leapt onto the next wave of attackers. He rolled, sliced, dodged, ripped, the sheer speed of his movements leaving no opening for any faction to regroup. Sparks from destroyed Securitrons flew into the air, vertibirds crashed, Brotherhood soldiers scrambled, mutants screamed, and yet Logan moved like the eye of a hurricane, lethal, unstoppable, perfect. Finally, the second Deathclaw faltered, staggering from Logan's relentless strikes. He leapt high, claws slicing diagonally, driving deep into the beast's chest. The roar that followed echoed across the ruined highway. He twisted, claws tearing through scales, through reinforced bone, and finally the creature collapsed, twitching, defeated but alive enough to remind the Wasteland that predators existed here too. Logan straightened, chest heaving slightly, eyes scanning the horizon. "All set," he said, calmly to Piper and the lone survivor. "Now, let's see who else wants a piece of me." Sparks from destroyed machines still smoldered around him. Super mutants lay in shredded heaps, and somewhere in the distance, more Brotherhood scouts were moving in. Enclave observers were recording, and NCR Securitrons were recalibrating for another strike. The battlefield was alive, and Logan was in the center of it, grinning, claws ready, unstoppable. Piper whispered, shaking, I can't believe this. He's insane." Logan flicked his claws, a smirk beneath his beard. "Insane enough to survive. Stick close, bub. This world's got a lot more monsters waiting." And with that, Wolverine led them further into the Wasteland, knowing the fight had only just begun. Smoke hung in the air, a heavy metallic tang of blood and burning circuitry clinging to the ruins of the highway. Logan moved ahead of Piper and the lone survivor, claws sheathed but ready, senses alert. Every scrap of sound, twisting metal, distant gunfire, shouts from far-off ruins pinged in his mind. He could feel it. The Brotherhood was organizing. The NCR was recalibrating its Securitrons, and somewhere the Enclave was watching, analyzing, waiting. The Wasteland wasn't just dangerous. It was alive, and it wanted him dead, or worse, captured. Piper wiped sweat from her brow, camera swinging. "We need cover. Somewhere you can, actually survive a day." She didn't meet his eyes. Logan didn't answer, just sniffed the air. He could feel predators moving in the distance, the faint hiss of energy weapons, the crunch of heavy boots, and the unnatural whirring of machines. Every faction was converging. "We can head to that old factory," the lone survivor suggested, pointing at a crumbling building a few hundred meters away. "It's fortified enough, at least for a temporary hideout." Logan grunted. "Lead the way, and don't slow me down." He stepped over the twisted remains of a Securitron, claws briefly flexing, ready for anything. As they moved, Piper finally risked speaking. "So, you're from another place, right? Another world? I mean, you just survive things no human should survive." Logan didn't smile, just kept moving. "Yeah, another world. And this place, it's messy. But messy's my specialty." He glanced back at her, amber eyes cold, but amused. "Stick close and keep your head down." The factory loomed ahead, shattered windows like dark eyes staring at them. Logan slid inside, landing silently among the rubble-strewn floor. Piper ducked in after him, shivering but wide-eyed. The lone survivor crouched behind a steel support beam, scanning. Logan flexed his claws and unsheathed them briefly, testing the air. The faint vibrations of distant steps tickled his senses. "We're not alone," he murmured. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward, coat flapping slightly, trench coat collar up. Logan's ears twitched. The scent of metal and cigarettes hit him first. Nick Valentine, Detective Synth. He tilted his hat and studied Logan like a puzzle. "Well, well," Nick said, voice calm but mechanical. "I don't usually get visitors from outside dimensions. You're a long way from home, aren't you?" Logan growled low. "I don't need a tour guide, Tin Man. You stay out of my way." Nick raised his hands in mock surrender, but his eyes scanned the factory, noting patterns, movement, energy readings. "I'm just here to make sure no one else dies before they know what's coming." A low rumble made them all freeze. Logan's nose twitched, super mutants moving, heavy footfalls echoing against broken steel beams. He sprang forward, claws flashing, slashing the nearest mutant in a single precise strike. Sparks flew as his adamantium sliced through reinforced armor. The second mutant swung a crude sledgehammer, but Logan ducked, countered with a spin, tearing the limb off in one brutal motion. Piper gasped, filming every second. This isn't a fight, it's carnage! From the rooftop, a Brotherhood vertibird landed, soldiers pouring out. Laser rifles lit up the dim factory, beams streaking the dust-filled air. Logan's eyes narrowed. "Oh good! Company!" He leapt onto a steel beam, flipping mid-air, claws raking a soldier's chest plate. Sparks flew, the man screaming as he fell into a pile of rubble. Another soldier aimed, firing a laser shot directly at Logan. But he twisted, the pulse grazing him harmlessly. "Come on," he muttered under his breath. "Bring it." The factory shook as more Securitrons rolled in, whirring and scanning. Logan ducked a blast, spinning, ripping into the first machine with ease. Sparks erupted, smoke curling from the torn circuits. Piper shouted, "Logan, they're everywhere!" He smirked, wiping a claw on the concrete floor. "Exactly the way I like it." Outside, the faint rumble of a second Deathclaw echoed. Logan's ears twitched. He snarled low, scenting the beast's approach. "Perfect," he said, "just perfect." Piper and the lone survivor looked at him, panic rising, but Logan didn't hesitate. He vaulted onto a steel girder, then onto the roof, spotting the approaching Deathclaw weaving through the ruined streets. Amber eyes locked, muscles tensed. He flexed his claws. "You think you're the only monster in this world? Think again, bub!" Nick Valentine stepped forward cautiously. "If you take this thing down, maybe we can actually talk strategy." Logan didn't respond. He was already leaping down, claws swinging, tearing into the Deathclaw as it roared in frustration. Sparks flew where adamantium met armored scales. Super mutants charged from the flanks. Brotherhood soldiers tried to aim. Securitrons rolled in, and yet Logan moved like a force of nature, unstoppable, untouchable, lethal. The Deathclaw struck with claws and tail, but Logan twisted, slashed, ripped through armor and muscle, blood spraying across rusted metal beams. Piper kept filming, shaking, whispering under her breath, This is insane! He's unreal!" Logan growled in response, tossing a mutant into the wall with a flick of his claws. "Real enough to survive, real enough to carve this place up." Finally, the Deathclaw faltered, staggering from the relentless onslaught. Logan leapt high, claws arcing in a brutal diagonal strike that tore through its spine, piercing its heart. The roar echoed across the ruined city, shaking debris and steel. The factory walls trembled, but Logan stood tall, chest heaving slightly, eyes amber and unyielding. "And that's how you teach monsters respect," he muttered. Piper stared wide-eyed, camera still rolling. I don't know how to... Logan retracted his claws, wiping them on the rubble. "Stick close, bub. We're not done yet. Everyone else wants a piece of me, and I plan to make sure they regret it." Outside, distant engines whined. Securitrons recalibrated, and the faint shimmer of Enclave tech blinked from the rooftops. The battlefield was alive, dangerous, and far from over. Logan smiled beneath his beard, amber eyes gleaming. "Time to move," he said, leading Piper and the lone survivor deeper into the wasteland, claws ready, every sense alive, unstoppable. The factory's shadows stretched long across the ruined floor as Logan led Piper and the lone survivor deeper inside. Dust fell from the cracked ceiling, and the faint hum of distant machines vibrated through the steel beams. Outside, the rumble of Brotherhood vertibirds faded, but Logan knew better than to believe the world was quiet. The Wasteland had a way of announcing its predators, and some of them weren't mutants, weren't ghouls, weren't even Deathclaws. Some were humans in metal suits, eyes glowing with cold calculation. "You think we can actually get some cover here?" Piper asked, voice trembling slightly as she held her camera tight. Logan didn't answer. He sniffed the air, senses twitching. Metal, ozone, and something else, something foreign. Enclave, and they weren't here for diplomacy. "Stay behind me," Logan muttered, unsheathing his claws again. His amber eyes scanned the shadows. "If they want to fight, they'll get more than they bargained for." The lone survivor adjusted his rifle nervously. "I've faced Enclave before, but you..." He trailed off, watching Logan flex his claws. "You're something else entirely." Logan grunted. "Yeah, I get that a lot." From the shadows of a shattered loading bay, a high-pitched whirring announced the approach of something large, something mechanical. A squad of Enclave soldiers in sleek combat armor emerged, energy rifles primed, the glint of cold light reflecting off their visors. Behind them, a hovering drone scanned the room, sensors beeping as it locked onto Logan's unique energy signature. Piper froze. "Oh my God! They've got him!" Logan's grin spread, low and dangerous. "Good. Let's see how polite they are." He leapt forward, claws flashing, ripping the nearest Enclave soldier's helmet clean off. Sparks erupted where adamantium met armor, and the man screamed in terror. The others fired, beams of energy streaking toward Logan, but he twisted mid-air, letting the blasts glance off harmlessly. One swipe, two swipes, and a soldier crumpled to the floor. Circuits fried and armor shredded. The lone survivor ducked behind a steel beam, shouting over the gunfire. "Logan, don't draw too much attention!" Logan didn't even glance back. "Attention is part of the fun," he growled. Piper clutched her camera like a lifeline, recording every instant wide-eyed. This is insane! He's unstoppable!" The Enclave soldiers regrouped, firing in coordinated bursts. Logan lunged into the middle of them, spinning, slashing, slicing clean through reinforced plating. Sparks flew, energy arcs hissed across the concrete, and one soldier tried to retreat, only to find Logan had already driven a claw through his chest. The metal screamed, the man screamed, and Logan didn't pause. He was a whirlwind of death and fury, untouchable, unstoppable, and alive in the chaos. Then a shadow moved from the rafters. Piper yelped as a second Deathclaw, massive and scarred, crashed through a collapsed wall, drawn by the noise of battle. Its claws dug into concrete, crushing debris as it roared, a sound so primal it made the Enclave soldiers hesitate for a heartbeat. Logan's grin widened. "I was hoping you'd show up!" He dove toward the beast, claws ripping into its scaled shoulder. The Deathclaw thrashed violently, swiping at him with massive talons, but Logan twisted, dodged, and drove his claws deep into its chest, sparks flying where the adamantium met the reinforced bone. Piper screamed behind cover. "He's insane! How is he still alive?" The lone survivor tried to fire at the Deathclaw, but Logan barked, "Don't waste your bullet! Back off and stay alive!" The Deathclaw swung, tail smashing a nearby Securitron, tossing it like a toy. Logan rolled under the blow, claws flashing, ripping through muscle and bone. One slash, two slashes, and the creature stumbled, staggering from the relentless assault. Outside, the faint whine of another Enclave drone sounded, sending a warning pulse across the ruined factory. Logan's senses flared. He could smell the direction, the energy signature, the intent. These were professionals, but even professional humans weren't fast enough, strong enough, lethal enough. He crouched low, claws flexed, and launched himself at the next wave of soldiers. Sparks erupted as he tore through armored limbs, energy weapons fried under his claws, bodies crumpling in shredded heaps. Piper whispered, voice trembling, I don't think anyone's ever done anything like this." Logan's amber eyes glinted in the dim light. "That's why they call me Wolverine. Now move!" The second Deathclaw roared, swinging its massive claw at Logan. He ducked, slicing upward through its armor, sending blood and scales flying across the concrete. The beast lunged again, jaws snapping, tail thrashing, but Logan twisted mid-air, landing lightly on the ground, claws raking across its back. Sparks, blood, and bone sprayed into the air. Piper kept filming, barely breathing, whispering, This is history. I'm recording history." The lone survivor ducked under another blast from the Enclave soldiers, firing wildly. Logan barked, "Focus! Don't die, Bob! Watch and learn!" He leapt again, claws tearing through the Deathclaw's shoulder and ribs, the beast stumbling backward, roaring, staggering. The Enclave soldiers froze, momentarily shocked by the raw power of Logan, and the Deathclaw's fury combined with Logan's lethal precision left the entire battlefield chaotic and unmanageable. Finally, with one last brutal diagonal strike, Logan ripped through the Deathclaw's chest, piercing heart and spine. The creature collapsed with a final deafening roar. Sparks from destroyed Securitrons and torn armor filled the air. Silence settled for a heartbeat. Logan flexed his claws, blood dripping, muscles tense, amber eyes scanning the ruined factory. Piper stepped forward, shaking, camera still rolling. I don't even know how to. I can't." Logan retracted his claws and wiped them on the rubble. "Stick close. We're not done yet. Everyone wants a piece of me, and I plan to make them regret it." The lone survivor exhaled shakily. You really are unstoppable." Logan smirked beneath his beard. "Yeah, and this? This is just the start." Outside, the faint whine of vertibird engines, distant Securitron sensors, and the hum of Enclave tech reminded them that the Wasteland was far from safe. But Logan led the way, muscles coiled, claws ready, every sense alive. He thrived on danger, thrived on carnage, thrived on proving that nothing in this world, not human, mutant, or machine, could stop him. The ruins of the factory rattled with a distant thrum of engines and the crunch of metal boots on concrete. Logan's amber eyes scanned every shadow, every flicker of movement. Piper clutched her camera, notebook forgotten, wide-eyed, following his lead as he moved silently through twisted beams and shattered walls. The lone survivor adjusted his rifle, sweat beading on his brow. "They're coming back," he whispered. Logan's ears twitched. "Already?" he muttered, claws flexing. He could smell them before they even appeared. Brotherhood soldiers, organized, disciplined, armored to the teeth. Vertibird engines cutting through the dust like predatory wings. From above, a vertibird descended, laser rifles already tracking them. Another squad of Securitrons rolled in from the ruined street outside, sensors glowing bright green. Logan's grin spread beneath his beard. Finally, some real fun. He leapt into the fray, claws flashing like living steel. Sparks erupted as adamantium met reinforced plating, shredding armor with every swipe. The vertibird pilot screamed as a claw tore through the hull, sending the craft crashing into a heap of twisted metal. Brotherhood soldiers tried to regroup, but Logan was already among them, moving faster than their eyes could follow. Piper ducked behind a collapsed wall, camera shaking. He's not human! No one's human enough to do that! Logan glanced back briefly. amber eyes flicking to her. "Not human," he said low, "but very, very real. Keep up." The lone survivor fired at a patrolling Securitron, missing by inches. Logan snorted, grabbing the robot mid-stride, twisting and tearing through circuitry with a brutal precision that left sparks and smoke curling into the air. Another Deathclaw emerged, drawn by the sounds of chaos, massive and scarred from previous battles. Its eyes glowed a faint red, muscles coiled like steel, claws scraping against the concrete floor as it roared. Logan flexed his claws, crouched low. "You came back for seconds? Fine, let's dance!" He lunged, slashing through the Deathclaw's forearm with a metallic scream. The creature spun, swinging its tail like a battering ram, but Logan rolled under the blow, claws raking across its chest, tearing through reinforced muscle and bone. Sparks and blood filled the air. The Brotherhood soldiers tried to coordinate, firing from rooftops and cover, energy bolts streaking toward Logan, but he twisted, dodged, and countered. One soldier jumped to attack him from behind, but Logan spun, claws raking through the armor in one fluid motion, sending the man tumbling across the rubble. Piper whispered into the camera, voice trembling, He's unstoppable. He's the story of a lifetime." The lone survivor ducked behind debris, muttering, "We can't hold them off forever." Logan growled low, "Hold them off? We're not holding them off. We're sending a message." He leapt onto a collapsed girder, spinning mid-air, claws slashing through a Securitron's chest plate. Sparks and molten metal sprayed into the air. The robot exploded, limbs scattering across the concrete like a metallic confetti. A second vertibird swooped in, dropping Brotherhood reinforcements. Logan's claws flicked, slicing through the landing struts, sending the aircraft crashing into a nearby wall. Soldiers screamed, vertibird engines flared, and debris rained down. Logan landed lightly, muscles coiled, senses alive. He flexed his claws, amber eyes scanning the chaos. "Anyone else want a piece of me?" he growled. From the shadows, the faint sound of footsteps echoed. Nick Valentine, Detective Synth, stepping carefully over broken debris. "Logan," he called, voice calm but mechanical. "We need a plan. You can't just keep running through them all." Logan didn't slow, claws flashing. "Plan? I don't need a plan. I need carnage and survival. Keep moving, bub." Nick's synthetic eyes flicked across the battlefield, taking in the wreckage, the torn corpses of super mutants, the smoking remains of Securitrons, and the massive Deathclaw struggling to rise. "You're not just fighting them," he said, voice measured. "You're making enemies faster than you can count." Logan smirked. "Enemies? Fine, let them come." The Deathclaw lunged again, jaws snapping, tail smashing debris into dust. Logan met it mid-charge, claws raking across its back, sparks flying where metal met reinforced bone. The lone survivor shouted, "We need a way out!" Logan glanced at him, amber eyes flashing. "Out? We don't do out. We do through." He spun, slashing the Deathclaw's shoulder, the creature staggering under the onslaught. Piper ducked behind a beam, still filming every brutal second. Brotherhood soldiers fired coordinated bursts, energy bolts ricocheting off metal beams. Logan twisted, deflected, countered with lethal precision, shredding armor, tearing limbs apart, leaving nothing but sparks, blood, and ruined steel in his wake. "This world's dangerous," he muttered under his breath, voice low, "but I'm better." A second Securitron barreled toward them. Logan ducked under its laser blast, slicing the robotic arm clean off. Sparks erupted, circuits fried, smoke curling into the dust-filled air. Piper whispered in awe, "He's unreal! No one's real enough to survive this!" Logan didn't answer. He was already vaulting toward the next wave of attackers, claws flashing. Outside, the faint hum of Enclave tech signaled more observers. Logan's senses flared. Perfect timing, he muttered, amber eyes gleaming. He dove toward a vertical girder, spinning mid-air, slashing through another Deathclaw's chest. The beast staggered, thrashing wildly, sending rubble and sparks flying. He landed, crouched, claws flexing, ready for the next strike. "Anyone else?" he growled, voice calm and deadly. The lone survivor ducked behind a beam, awestruck, while Piper whispered frantically into her camera. This is history! I'm recording history!" Logan's grin flashed beneath his beard. "Good, keep it safe. People need to know what just happened here." The wasteland rumbled with distant footsteps, vertibird engines whining faintly, Securitrons recalibrating, and somewhere Enclave tech blinking in the distance. Logan flexed his claws one last time, amber eyes sweeping the ruined factory, muscles coiled, senses alive. "All right," he muttered, "time to move. New threats are coming, and I intend to meet every one of them. Face first." Piper, wide-eyed, camera still rolling, followed him, while the lone survivor gritted his teeth, rifle ready, trusting that if Wolverine led the charge, survival was possible. The factory smelled of ozone, burnt metal, and blood. Logan's claws flexed as he led Piper and the lone survivor through the shattered corridors, boots crunching over rubble. Outside, distant vertibird engines hummed, and Securitron sensors scanned the streets, searching for the unstoppable force they knew was somewhere in the ruins. Logan sniffed the air, senses flaring. Brotherhood patrols were regrouping. NCR Securitrons were recalibrating. Enclave tech blinked faintly from the rooftops. The Wasteland had noticed him, and it was mobilizing every predator it could spare. "We need somewhere to set up, strategize, heal, plan," the lone survivor said, ducking behind a fallen support beam. Logan didn't answer immediately. He could feel it all, the hum of energy weapons, the shifting of armored feet, the distant roar of another Deathclaw, bigger than the last. He crouched low, amber eyes scanning, muscles tensed. "We set the trap," he muttered finally, claws flashing. "Let them come to us. Let them learn why the Wasteland fears Wolverine." Piper's camera swung wildly. "Trap? Wolverine, you can set traps?" Logan smirked beneath his beard. "Yeah, bub. And they're about to get taught a very expensive lesson." He vaulted over a chunk of rubble, claws slicing the air as he landed silently in the ruined lobby of a collapsed office building. "This'll do. Temporary but defensible. Plenty of steel, concrete, and enough wreckage to turn into weapons." The lone survivor peered at the building skeptically. "If they find us here..." Logan didn't finish the sentence. He flexed his claws, amber eyes gleaming. "They will. And when they do, they'll regret it." Outside, the faint whine of vertibird engines grew louder. A squad of Brotherhood soldiers descended, energy rifles trained. NCR Securitrons rolled into the streets, sensors glowing green. From the shadows, a massive Deathclaw emerged, muscles rippling under armored scales, eyes glowing with red fury. Logan's grin widened. "Perfect timing," he muttered. He slashed a jagged line across a support beam, knocking a chunk down to create cover. Sparks flew as the beam split. "Piper, stay behind that wall. Survivor, same. And stay alive." The Deathclaw charged, tail smashing debris. Logan met it mid-charge, claws raking across its chest, sparks and blood flying. He twisted under a swipe of its massive claw, rolling along the concrete, driving his claws deep into its shoulder. The beast screamed, lashing wildly, but Logan held, carving precise, lethal slashes. Piper gasped. He's insane! Logan shot her a quick glance. Alive, bub. Always alive. Keep your eyes open. Brotherhood soldiers opened fire from above, energy bolts streaking across the dusty air. Logan ducked, claws slicing metal beams, ricocheting shots harmlessly. One soldier jumped to flank him, but Logan spun, claws raking through reinforced armor, sending the man crashing into a pile of rubble. Sparks flew. The sound of metal tearing was deafening. You see why they call me Wolverine? Logan growled. From the ruined streets, Securitrons rolled in, firing beams, but Logan didn't hesitate. He dodged, pivoted, and ripped through circuitry with lethal precision. Sparks flew, smoke curled into the dusty air. One machine exploded, sending fragments scattering across the street. Another fired blindly, missing as Logan twisted mid-air, claws flashing. Move or die! He barked at Piper and the lone survivor. The Deathclaw roared again, snapping its jaws. Logan leapt onto its back, claws digging deep into its armored scales. The beast thrashed violently, tail smashing walls, concrete splintering. But Logan held on, slicing through reinforced muscle and bone. Sparks flew where adamantium met hardened flesh. Piper whispered in awe, He's unreal. The lone survivor fired at a vertibird hovering above, drawing some attention, but Logan barked, Focus on survival, bub, not fireworks. The Deathclaw reared, chud-toot, smashing the ground with its massive claws, sending rubble into the air. Logan spun, slashing its legs, then shoulder, leaving trails of blood and sparks. Amber eyes gleamed. You want to fight me? Fine! You'll lose, every time! From the rooftops, Enclave soldiers activated sensors, preparing energy pulses. Logan sniffed the air, muscles coiled. They think they're smart, he muttered. They'll learn the hard way. He vaulted from cover, landing amid a squad of Securitrons, claws flashing in a lethal arc. Sparks erupted, circuitry fried, limbs torn apart. The lone survivor shouted, Logan, too many! Logan grinned faintly, not enough. Another Deathclaw appeared, larger, more muscular, drawn by the carnage. Logan didn't hesitate. He leapt onto the beast mid-charge, claws slicing through scales, muscles flexing, sparks flying. The Wasteland trembled under the sound of claws ripping through armor and bone. Piper's camera shook violently. I can't believe it. He's not real! Logan's low growl cut through the chaos. Real enough to survive. Brotherhood soldiers fell back, vertibirds retreating. NCR Securitrons melted under his claws. The Deathclaws staggered, wounded but alive, snarling. But Logan's amber eyes were unwavering, muscles coiled, claws ready. We're not done yet, he muttered, looking at Piper and the lone survivor. But this is a good start. New world, new rules, and I'm writing them. Outside, Enclave tech blinked in the distance, observing, calculating. Brotherhood regrouped, planning their next move. Securitrons whirred and recalibrated. Logan flexed his claws, surveying the battlefield. Every predator, every faction, every monster had been tested, and every one of them would remember why the Wasteland now had a weapon it had never faced before. The factory lay in ruins, smoke curling lazily from scorched walls and shattered steel beams. Broken Securitrons sparked, smoldering piles of metal scattered across the floor, and the faint metallic tang of blood hung heavy in the air. Logan crouched atop a collapsed girder, claws retracted but still glinting faintly in the dusty light. Amber eyes scanned the horizon, muscles coiled, senses twitching even though the immediate chaos had subsided. He could feel the wasteland breathing around him, Brotherhood regrouping, Enclave observing, NCR Securitrons recalibrating. And somewhere beyond the ruined streets, more predators stirred, waiting for a chance to test the legend that was Wolverine. Piper stumbled forward, camera still rolling, face pale but wide-eyed. I can't believe any of this, Logan. How are you still standing? Logan's grin was faint but deadly calm. Because I'm not done. And because they don't make walls strong enough, bullets fast enough, or monsters mean enough to keep me down. He sheathed his claws, wiping them on a chunk of concrete. Sparks from destroyed Securitrons reflected off his skin like tiny stars. Stick close, bub. We're far from safe. The lone survivor stepped over a pile of rubble, rifle lowered slightly. That was insane. I fought Enclave, Brotherhood, super mutants. I've seen Deathclaws up close. But that wasn't human. Logan flexed his claws slowly. No, bub, not human, but I get results. You remember that. From the shadows of the ruined lobby, Nick Valentine emerged, trenchcoat dusted with debris, synthetic eyes scanning Logan carefully. I've seen a lot in my time, Nick said, voice calm, deliberate. Mutant synths, raiders, Deathclaws. But you, something about you, doesn't compute. Logan's amber eyes met his, steady and unwavering. Not supposed to compute. I survive. That's all that matters. Nick's mechanical mind whirred, analyzing the subtle muscle tenses, the healing factor evident in minor scratches that had already stitched themselves together, the aura of lethal intent that surrounded him. You're different, Nick muttered, and anyone else in this world who crosses you isn't going to survive long enough to notice. Piper's camera swung toward Nick. Wait, you're a detective synth, right? And you actually think he is different? Nick nodded slowly. Yes. And dangerous in ways this wasteland isn't ready for. I need to understand him. Before someone else tries to kill him. Or captures him, Logan shrugged, leaning against a steel beam. Understand me? Try it. But I warn you, I don't play nice. Outside, distant echoes of vertibird engines and the faint hum of Enclave tech reminded them that the battle had not ended. Logan sniffed the air, senses twitching. They're regrouping. Brotherhood, NCR, Enclave. They'll be back, and bigger. And this time, they won't hesitate. Piper shivered. So what do we do? Just wait? Logan shook his head, amber eyes glinting. No, we plan. We move smart. And we make sure everyone who comes after me learns exactly what they're up against. Nick stepped closer, studying the torn concrete and scorched metal. I can help, strategize, track movement, anticipate attacks. But even I can't predict everything you can do, Logan smirked faintly. Then do what you can, Tin Man. I'll handle the rest. He flexed his claws one last time, the sound sharp in the quiet ruin. Piper whispered under her breath, I'm filming history. A distant rumble made all of them freeze. Logan sniffed the air, senses flaring. Another Deathclaw, or perhaps the one they had injured, was moving, massive claws tearing through the debris, roaring with rage. The lone survivor raised his rifle, but Logan waved him down. Not yet. Let me handle it. He stepped into the open amber eyes locked on the approaching beast. Muscles coiled, claws flashing faintly in the dim light. Time for a reminder, he muttered. The wasteland doesn't own me. I own it. The Deathclaw lunged, and Logan met it head-on, claws ripping through its reinforced shoulder. The beast thrashed violently, tail smashing the floor, but Logan twisted, landing precise strikes that shredded muscle and scales alike. Sparks flew where adamantium met bone, blood spraying across the cracked concrete. Piper's camera shook violently as she whispered, He's unstoppable." Nick Valentine stepped forward cautiously. "I need to record this. Understand his movements." Logan shot him a sharp glance. "Understand me? Fine. Just don't get in the way." He lunged again, slashing diagonally through the Deathclaw's chest, leaving a deep, smoking wound. The beast roared, staggering but alive, and Logan flexed his claws, amber eyes glinting with lethal precision. The lone survivor finally ducked behind cover, muttering, I can't believe any of this. He's unreal." Logan grinned faintly, wiping his claws on the steel beam. "Unreal? Maybe. But real enough to survive. Real enough to make every predator in this world think twice before stepping in my path." Outside, faint sounds of faction regrouping, the distant whine of vertibird engines, Securitrons recalibrating, Enclave tech scanning, reminded them that the Wasteland was far from safe. But Logan was ready, every sense alive, muscles coiled, claws at the ready. Piper and the lone survivor followed closely, adrenaline still spiking, while Nick Valentine observed and calculated, realizing that understanding Logan might be the only way to survive in this new, chaotic world. Logan flexed his claws once more, amber eyes sweeping the battlefield. "All right," he muttered, "time to figure out the next move. Factions are regrouping, monsters are hungry, and I'm just getting started," Piper whispered into her camera. This is history. Everyone needs to know this." Logan glanced back, smirk flashing. "Then make sure they do, bub. Make sure they do." The horizon burned with the fading light of a sun streaked red from the fallout dust, shadows stretching across the ruined streets like claws. Logan crouched atop the skeletal remains of a collapsed building, amber eyes scanning the approaching storm. Brotherhood vertibirds swooped low, synchronized in precision. NCR Securitrons rolled in coordinated lines, sensors glowing. And Enclave soldiers emerged from hidden rooftops, energy rifles humming with lethal intent. Wolverine's claws were extended, gleaming faintly in the dim light. Enough to notice. Piper's camera swung toward Nick. "Wait, you're a detective synth, right? And you actually think he is different?" Nick nodded slowly. "Yes. And dangerous in ways this Wasteland isn't ready for. I need to understand him. Before someone else tries to kill him. Or captures him," Logan shrugged, leaning against a steel beam. "Understand me? Try it. But I warn you, I don't play nice." Outside, distant echoes of vertibird engines and the faint hum of Enclave tech reminded them that the battle had not ended. Logan sniffed the air, senses twitching. "They're regrouping. Brotherhood, NCR, Enclave. They'll be back, and bigger. And this time, they won't hesitate." Piper shivered. "So what do we do? Just wait?" Logan shook his head, amber eyes glinting. "No, we plan. We move smart. And we make sure everyone who comes after me learns exactly what they're up against." Nick stepped closer, studying the torn concrete and scorched metal. "I can help, strategize, track movement, anticipate attacks. But even I can't predict everything you can do," Logan smirked faintly. "Then do what you can, Tin Man. I'll handle the rest." He flexed his claws one last time, the sound sharp in the quiet ruin. Piper whispered under her breath, I'm filming history." A distant rumble made all of them freeze. Logan sniffed the air, senses flaring. Another Deathclaw, or perhaps the one they had injured, was moving, massive claws tearing through the debris, roaring with rage. The lone survivor raised his rifle, but Logan waved him down. "Not yet. Let me handle it." He stepped into the open amber eyes locked on the approaching beast. Muscles coiled, claws flashing faintly in the dim light. "Time for a reminder," he muttered. "The Wasteland doesn't own me. I own it." The Deathclaw lunged, and Logan met it head-on, claws ripping through its reinforced shoulder. The beast thrashed violently, tail smashing the floor, but Logan twisted, landing precise strikes that shredded muscle and scales alike. Sparks flew where adamantium met bone, blood spraying across the cracked concrete. Piper's camera shook violently as she whispered, He's unstoppable." Nick Valentine stepped forward cautiously. "I need to record this. Understand his movements." Logan shot him a sharp glance. "Understand me? Fine. Just don't get in the way." He lunged again, slashing diagonally through the Deathclaw's chest, leaving a deep, smoking wound. The beast roared, staggering but alive, and Logan flexed his claws, amber eyes glinting with lethal precision. The lone survivor finally ducked behind cover, muttering, I can't believe any of this. He's unreal." Logan grinned faintly, wiping his claws on the steel beam. "Unreal? Maybe. But real enough to survive. Real enough to make every predator in this world think twice before stepping in my path." Outside, faint sounds of faction regrouping, the distant whine of vertibird engines, Securitrons recalibrating, Enclave tech scanning, reminded them that the Wasteland was far from safe. But Logan was ready, every sense alive, muscles coiled, claws at the ready. Piper and the lone survivor followed closely, adrenaline still spiking, while Nick Valentine observed and calculated, realizing that understanding Logan might be the only way to survive in this new, chaotic world. Logan flexed his claws once more, amber eyes sweeping the battlefield. "All right," he muttered, "time to figure out the next move. Factions are regrouping, monsters are hungry, and I'm just getting started," Piper whispered into her camera. This is history. Everyone needs to know this." Logan glanced back, smirk flashing. "Then make sure they do, bub. Make sure they do." The horizon burned with the fading light of a sun streaked red from the fallout dust, shadows stretching across the ruined streets like claws. Logan crouched atop the skeletal remains of a collapsed building, amber eyes scanning the approaching storm. Brotherhood vertibirds swooped low, synchronized in precision. NCR Securitrons rolled in coordinated lines, sensors glowing. And Enclave soldiers emerged from hidden rooftops, energy rifles humming with lethal intent. Wolverine's claws were extended, gleaming faintly in the dim light, each one a promise of death. "Bub," he muttered, voice low, dangerous. "This is the part where they learn what happens when the Wasteland messes with me." Piper crouched behind a pile of rubble, camera shaking violently. "Logan, this is insane! They're all here, at once!" Logan's amber eyes flicked toward her. "Exactly. And that's why I'm smiling." He flexed his claws, muscles coiled like springs ready to snap. The lone survivor peered over the edge of cover, rifle trembling in his hands. They're not holding anything back. This is a full assault." Logan didn't flinch. "Good. Then let's give them a proper welcome." From the north, the first wave hit. A massive Deathclaw, scarred from previous battles, barreled through rubble, muscles rippling, eyes glowing red. It swung its massive tail, smashing a line of NCR Securitrons into twisted heaps of metal. Logan leapt from the skeletal building, claws slashing through the Deathclaw's armored shoulder. Sparks and blood erupted where adamantium met reinforced scales. The beast roared, thrashing violently, but Logan held, slicing precise, lethal lines across muscle and bone. Above them, Brotherhood vertibirds strafed the battlefield, energy bolts streaking toward Logan. He twisted mid-air, claws deflecting the shots harmlessly, before diving into the nearest group of soldiers. Armor crumpled under adamantium, limbs flew, screams echoed, and Logan landed lightly, amber eyes scanning for the next threat. Piper gasped, voice trembling. He's not human! Logan smirked faintly. Not human, bub, but real enough to survive. Enclave soldiers emerged from rooftops, their tech glowing ominously. One fired a pulse rifle, energy arcs sizzling across the concrete. Logan ducked under the blast, claws flashing, slicing through armored torsos with surgical precision. Sparks flew, circuitry fried instantly, and the soldiers fell, writhing in shock as adamantium ripped through bone and metal alike. The lone survivor shouted, "Logan, too many!" Logan growled low, "Not enough!" He leapt high, twisting mid-air, claws slashing through another Securitron as it fired blindly, circuits exploding into sparks and smoke. The second Deathclaw roared from behind a crumbling overpass, drawn by the carnage. Logan landed in its path, crouched, claws flashing. The beast lunged, jaws snapping. Logan rolled under the strike, claws driving deep into the side of its chest. Sparks flew where metal met reinforced bone. The Deathclaw thrashed violently, but Logan twisted, spinning atop the beast, ripping through muscle and scales with lethal precision. Piper kept filming, barely breathing, whispering, This is history." Nick Valentine emerged from a collapsed alley, scanning the battlefield. "Logan," he called, voice calm. "They're coordinated. Brotherhood, NCR, Enclave, they've worked out a strategy." Logan shot him a glance, amber eyes gleaming. "I don't care what they've worked out. I care about who's still standing afterward." He leapt onto a Securitron, driving claws through its chest, sending sparks and metal fragments into the air. "Bub," he muttered to the lone survivor, "watch, learn, and survive." Vertibirds swooped again, dropping more Brotherhood soldiers. Energy rifles blazed, cutting across the battlefield, but Logan was already moving, faster than the eye could follow. One strike, two strikes, and a vertibird crashed into a pile of rubble. Soldiers scrambled, Securitrons fell, and the Deathclaw staggered under Logan's relentless assault. Amber eyes gleamed. "You think you can overwhelm me? Fine, I'll prove you wrong." The ground shook as the second Deathclaw lunged at Logan from the flanks. He twisted, slashed, leaving deep, smoking wounds across its chest and shoulders. Sparks flew as adamantium met reinforced bone, and the beast stumbled, snarling with fury. Piper screamed behind cover, voice trembling. He's unreal!" Logan growled, spinning, claws tearing through the next wave of Enclave soldiers. Sparks, blood, and debris filled the air. "This world's dangerous, bub," he muttered, amber eyes gleaming. "But I'm better." Suddenly, from the horizon, another roar echoed, larger, more furious than anything yet. A third Deathclaw, massive and scarred, appeared, charging through the chaos. Logan's grin widened. "Now we're talking." He leapt, claws flashing, diving into the heart of the storm. Sparks erupted where metal met flesh, scales shredded, soldiers tossed aside. Amber eyes scanned the battlefield, muscles coiled, claws ready. "This is my wasteland," he growled, "and everyone here is going to learn that." Piper whispered frantically, camera trembling. I can't. He's insane." Logan shot her a glance, smirk flashing. "Real enough to survive, bub, and to make history." The lone survivor ducked behind a beam, muttering, We're gonna make it, right? Logan's amber eyes flicked to him. If you keep moving, yes. If you hesitate, no. But stick close and you'll survive. He launched at the third Deathclaw, claws flashing, slashing through armored muscle. Sparks, blood, and bone erupted in a deadly rain. The coordinated attack of Brotherhood, NCR, and Enclave faltered under Logan's lethal precision. Sparks flew, machinery fried, soldiers fell, and the Deathclaws staggered, injured but alive. Wolverine stood amidst the chaos, muscles coiled, amber eyes gleaming, claws dripping, senses alive. He had crossed the point of no return. The Wasteland had been tested, and every predator, human and machine, now knew there was a force they could not stop. Nick Valentine stepped forward, trench coat dusted with debris, mechanical eyes scanning. Logan, you've changed everything here. They'll come again, bigger, faster, smarter. Logan flexed his claws, amber eyes locked on the horizon. Good, I like a challenge. Let them come. I'll be ready. Always ready. Piper whispered into her camera, voice shaking with adrenaline. Everyone's gonna see this. Everyone needs to know. Logan smirked faintly. Then make sure they do, bub. Make sure they do. The battlefield trembled under distant engines, distant roars, and the faint hum of recalibrating tech. Wolverine stood at the eye of the storm, alive, unstoppable, lethal, and fully aware that there was no turning back. The ruins shook with the echo of vertibird engines and the distant pounding of massive feet. Logan crouched atop a crumbling overpass, amber eyes scanning the chaos, claws extended, muscles coiled like steel springs ready to snap. Sparks from shredded Securitrons lit the smoky air, blood and debris scattered across the cracked concrete. He could smell everything: burning circuitry, irradiated metal, gunpowder, and the metallic tang of mutant blood. But the predators weren't finished yet. Brotherhood reinforcements were moving in, NCR Securitrons recalibrating, and Enclave scouts were already plotting flanking maneuvers. Logan's grin spread beneath his beard. Time to show them why the Wasteland fears Wolverine, he muttered. Piper crouched behind a steel beam, camera trembling. Logan, they're everywhere! You can't! Logan cut her off with a flick of his claws. I can, bub. Watch and survive. The lone survivor adjusted his rifle, eyes wide as he tracked the movement of approaching enemies. Logan didn't hesitate. He dove from the overpass, landing in the middle of a squad of Brotherhood soldiers. His claws flashed like living steel, rending armor, slicing limbs, sparks flying as adamantium met reinforced plating. Screams echoed across the streets, but Logan didn't pause. He was a storm unleashed. A massive Deathclaw charged from the north, eyes blazing red, tail smashing into a pile of rubble. Logan met it mid-charge, claws raking its shoulder, sparks flying where metal met armored scales. The beast thrashed violently, jaws snapping, but Logan twisted, spinning atop the creature, slashing deep into muscle and bone. Piper gasped, whispering, He's insane." Logan didn't respond. He had no time for words. Survival and dominance was action, and he spoke it fluently. Nick Valentine stepped out from a collapsed alleyway, trench coat flapping, eyes calculating. "Logan," he called, voice mechanical but urgent. "You can't fight them all at once. You need a strategy." Logan glanced at him, amber eyes gleaming. "Strategy? Fine. Step 1, scare them to death. Step 2, survive. Step 3, clean up." Nick's synthetic mind whirred, mapping troop positions, calculating firing angles. "You can't just go berserk forever," Nick warned. But you can use the terrain! Logan smirked faintly. Good thinking, Tin Man. He leapt onto a broken water tower, claws extended, surveying the battlefield like a predator. Below, NCR Securitrons rolled forward, firing in coordinated lines. Logan dropped mid-air, claws flashing in a deadly arc, tearing through circuitry, sparks exploding into the dust-filled sky. Soldiers screamed as armor shredded, limbs flew, and debris rained like hail. The second Deathclaw reared from behind a crumbled overpass, muscles rippling, eyes glowing with fury. Logan met it head-on, claws raking its chest. Sparks and blood filled the air as adamantium met reinforced bone. The creature lunged, but Logan twisted mid-air, slashing diagonally, tearing open muscle and bone with surgical precision. Piper filmed every second, whispering, This is history!" The lone survivor ducked behind cover, muttering, I don't know if anyone could survive this." Logan spun, driving claws into a Securitron, sending sparks flying, before vaulting onto a Brotherhood soldier attempting to flank him. He ripped through armor, sending the man crashing into a pile of rubble. "This world's dangerous, bub," Logan muttered, amber eyes flashing, "but I'm better." From above, vertibird engines whined, dropping more reinforcements. Logan leapt, claws raking through the landing struts, sending a vertibird crashing into a heap of debris. Soldiers scrambled, energy bolts ricocheting across the streets. The second Deathclaw lunged, jaws snapping at his back, but Logan spun mid-air, claws slicing through its shoulder, driving the creature to the ground. Sparks erupted, debris flying, and for a moment the battlefield froze in a violent tableau of death and destruction. Nick Valentine called out, "Use the terrain, Logan! Funnel them through the rubble!" Logan's grin widened. He leapt atop a collapsed highway support, slashing through multiple Securitrons as they attempted to flank him, then drove a nearby piece of twisted steel into a small squad of Brotherhood soldiers, tossing them into the wreckage. Piper screamed behind cover, "He's unreal! No one survives this!" The lone survivor fired at an approaching Deathclaw, distracting it long enough for Logan to vault onto its back, claws raking across armored scales. Sparks and blood flew in a deadly rain. Logan twisted mid-air, landing on solid ground, claws flexed, amber eyes gleaming. "Anyone else?" he growled, voice low, deadly. From the rooftops, Enclave soldiers activated energy pulses, scanning the battlefield. Logan's senses flared. He could smell, hear, and anticipate every move. He ducked under a blast, claws flashing, slicing through armored torsos. Sparks erupted, circuitry fried instantly. Soldiers fell writhing. He leapt again, slicing through another Securitron, sending sparks and molten metal raining down. The battlefield was chaos incarnate, but every movement Logan made was precise, deadly, and calculated. The third Deathclaw arrived, massive and scarred, drawn by the noise of carnage. Logan flexed his claws, muscles coiled, amber eyes gleaming. He launched himself at the beast, claws tearing deep into muscle and bone. Sparks erupted where adamantium met reinforced scales, blood spraying in all directions. Piper kept filming, barely breathing, whispering, I can't. This isn't real." The lone survivor ducked behind cover, muttering, We're going to survive, right?" Logan glanced at him, amber eyes steady. "Stick close, bub. Watch and learn, and live." He spun, slashing through a squad of Brotherhood soldiers attempting to flank the Deathclaw, then leapt onto the beast's back, driving claws deep into its chest. Sparks, blood, and debris filled the streets. The wasteland trembled under the sound of claws ripping through armor, scales, and bone. Finally, Logan retracted his claws, surveying the battlefield. Sparks from destroyed Securitrons smoldered in the air. Deathclaws staggered but alive. Brotherhood soldiers were retreating, and Enclave tech blinked faintly in the distance. Piper whispered, voice shaking. This is history." Logan flexed his claws, amber eyes sweeping the battlefield. "Yeah, bub. History's been made. And everyone out there, they know now. I'm not just surviving. I'm ruling this chaos." The ruins of the wasteland stretched out like a battlefield, carved from nightmare. Logan crouched atop a twisted steel beam, amber eyes scanning the horizon as the ground trembled under the approach of vertibirds, Securitrons, armored Brotherhood soldiers, and hulking Deathclaws. The Enclave had arrived in force, their pulse rifles glowing, scanning for targets. Smoke curled across the cracked concrete streets, debris strewn in every direction, and the acrid tang of irradiated metal filled the air. Logan flexed his claws, each one gleaming with lethal intent. "Bub," he muttered, voice low and deadly. "This is the part where they learn why chaos follows me." Piper crouched behind a collapsed wall, camera shaking violently, filming the approaching storm. "Logan, they're everywhere. Too many." Logan's amber eyes flicked to her. "Exactly. And that's why they're going to regret it." He leapt from his perch, landing among a squad of Brotherhood soldiers. His claws flashed like living steel, slicing through armor, sending limbs and sparks flying. The soldiers screamed as he moved through them with terrifying speed and precision. Amber eyes gleaming, muscles coiled, unstoppable. A massive Deathclaw, scarred from previous encounters, charged from the north, tail smashing rubble, jaws snapping. Logan met it mid-charge, claws raking across armored shoulders. Sparks erupted where adamantium met reinforced bone. The beast thrashed violently, but Logan twisted atop it, claws carving deep, surgical slashes into muscle and scales. Piper gasped, whispering, He's unreal." Logan didn't answer. Survival wasn't a question, it was an art form, and he was the master. Nick Valentine emerged from the shadows, trench coat dusted with debris, eyes calculating. "Logan," he called, voice calm but urgent. "They're coordinated, every faction in the Wasteland. Brotherhood, NCR, Enclave. They're moving together. You can't just fight them all head on." Logan glanced at him, amber eyes gleaming. "Good thing I don't fight head on." He leapt onto a nearby collapsed overpass, scanning the battlefield. "We're gonna turn their numbers against them." The lone survivor crouched low, rifle raised. "Turn them against... Oh no, I see what you mean." Logan grinned faintly, muscles coiling. He launched himself into the fray, claws flashing in arcs of death. Sparks erupted as Securitrons crumpled, their circuitry fried. Brotherhood soldiers screamed as adamantium tore through reinforced plating. The Deathclaw roared, swiping at him with massive claws, but Logan twisted mid-air, raking across its chest, leaving deep, smoking gashes. Vertibirds swooped low, dropping more reinforcements, energy rifles blazing. Logan leapt onto the nearest aircraft, claws raking through the landing struts, sending it crashing into a heap of rubble. Soldiers scrambled, laser blasts ricocheted, and Logan landed lightly, amber eyes sweeping the battlefield. "Anyone else want a piece of me?" he growled. From the rooftops, Enclave soldiers fired energy pulses, scanning for his signature. Logan sniffed the air, sensors flaring. He ducked under a blast, claws flashing, slicing through armored torsos. Sparks erupted, circuitry fried instantly, bodies crumpling. The battlefield was chaos incarnate, but every move Logan made was precise, deadly, controlled. Piper screamed behind cover, He's insane! No one survives this!" The second Deathclaw lunged from a shattered building, massive tail smashing debris. Logan spun mid-air, claws raking through armored shoulders, blood spraying across the concrete. Sparks lit the smoke-filled air. The lone survivor ducked behind rubble, muttering, We're gonna survive, right?" Logan glanced at him. "Stick close, bub. Watch and learn, and survive." Nick Valentine stepped forward cautiously, calculating angles and positions. "Logan, we can use the rubble, the wreckage, to funnel them, force them into kill zones." Logan's grin widened. "Good thinking, Tin Man. Lead the way." He vaulted onto a collapsed highway support, claws slicing through approaching Securitrons, sending sparks and molten metal flying. Brotherhood soldiers screamed as limbs tore free, armor shredded. The third Deathclaw appeared, drawn by the carnage, massive and scarred. Logan flexed his claws, muscles coiled, amber eyes glowing. He launched at the beast, ripping deep into muscle and bone. Sparks erupted where adamantium met reinforced scales, blood spraying across the battlefield. Piper whispered frantically, I can't! This isn't real!" The coordinated assault faltered as Logan turned the battlefield to his advantage. Securitrons collided with Brotherhood squads, Deathclaws tripped over debris, and Logan exploited every opening. He leapt atop a fallen vertibird, claws flashing, sending it crashing into the street. Sparks, debris, and blood filled the air. The battlefield trembled under the sound of adamantium tearing through bone and metal. Finally, Logan stood atop a pile of rubble, amber eyes sweeping the battlefield. Deathclaws staggered, factions faltered, Enclave soldiers retreated. Piper whispered, voice shaking, This is history!" Logan flexed his claws, muscles coiled, every sense alive. "History, bub, and everyone who comes here next, they'll know who rules this chaos." The lone survivor muttered behind cover, awestruck. He really is unstoppable." Logan's grin flashed. "Yep, and this is just the beginning." Outside, distant vertibird engines whined, Securitrons recalibrated, and the faint hum of Enclave tech blinked in the shadows. Wolverine stood at the eye of the storm, alive, unstoppable, lethal, and fully aware that there was no turning back. The battlefield was a wasteland within a wasteland. Smoke hung in thick, choking clouds over shattered concrete, twisted steel, and the burned-out husks of Securitrons and vertibirds. Logan stood atop a pile of rubble, claws retracted but still gleaming faintly, amber eyes scanning the destruction he had left behind. The ground was littered with scorched armor, shredded bodies, and the stench of ozone and blood. A testimony to what happened when Wolverine faced the wasteland head-on. Piper stumbled forward, camera shaking, recording every scarred inch of the battlefield. "Logan, I can't even—" Her voice trailed off, awestruck. Logan's gaze flicked toward the horizon, where distant Enclave scouts were regrouping, cautious now, calculating the cost of underestimating him. "Cautious is good," he muttered, flexing his claws slowly, amber eyes glowing in the fading light. "Cautious means they respect the fact that I'm not a joke." The lone survivor picked his way through debris, rifle at the ready, eyes wide. We survived, but at what cost?" Logan snorted, muscles coiled, senses still alive to every vibration in the rubble. "Survived. We thrived, bub, and that's all that matters." From the shadows of a crumbled wall, Nick Valentine emerged, trench coat dusted with debris, synthetic eyes scanning. "They won't forget this," he said calmly, voice mechanical but deliberate. "Brotherhood, NCR, Enclave, they've seen what you can do. They'll be back, and they'll bring more." Logan flexed his claws again, amber eyes narrowing. "Good, let them bring it. I've got plenty more teeth to show 'em." Nick stepped closer, noting the subtle healing factor at work, the scratches and bruises already knitting themselves together. "You're more than anyone could have imagined. But there's going to be a cost." Logan's grin was faint, lethal. "I pay my own costs, bub, and I collect theirs." Piper filmed as the second Deathclaw, battered and bleeding, struggled to its feet nearby, eyes still glowing red. Logan's amber gaze flicked toward it. "You're lucky," he muttered low, claws retracting. "But next time you won't be." The beast snarled, retreating into the ruined streets, leaving a trail of blood and destruction. Piper whispered in awe, He doesn't just survive, he dominates." The lone survivor approached cautiously. "Logan, what now? They've seen what you're capable of. They won't stop." Logan's gaze swept the battlefield, amber eyes calculating. "Then we prepare. Set up defenses, watch the approaches, and make sure anyone else who comes through that door regrets it." He sheathed his claws, muscles relaxing slightly but senses still alert. "I don't fight for glory, bub. I fight to survive, and make sure no one else survives trying to stop me." Nick Valentine analyzed the ruined battlefield, calculating the factions' likely responses. "They'll coordinate," he said. "Use flanking, distractions, possibly more Deathclaws or mechanized units. You can't just charge in again without strategy." Logan smirked faintly. "I've got the strategy. Chaos. And if that doesn't work..." He flexed his claws. "I adapt. Simple." Piper's camera captured every moment, the awe in her eyes mirrored in every movement of Wolverine, a living legend etched into the ruins. Suddenly, a faint rumble echoed across the distant streets. Another vertibird hovered cautiously, scouting the battlefield, and a small squad of Enclave soldiers peeked over the ruined walls, assessing the damage Logan had inflicted. Wolverine's amber eyes narrowed, muscles coiled. "They're watching," he muttered. "Perfect. Let them see the cost of trying to play with me." The lone survivor muttered, We can't just sit here forever. They'll bring more. Maybe we need to fall back." Logan shook his head, smirk flashing. "No, we hold. They want me, they'll come to us. And when they do, bub, they'll learn the hard way why chaos follows me." Piper whispered into her camera, voice shaking. Everyone's going to see this. Everyone's going to know." Logan glanced at her, amber eyes calm and deadly. "Then make sure they do, bub. Record it all. They need to know the cost of underestimating me." A faint screech echoed from the distance. The third Deathclaw, massive and enraged, limped into view, eyes fixed on Wolverine. Logan flexed his claws, muscles tensing. "You're persistent," he muttered, voice low, lethal. "I like that. But persistence isn't enough." He leapt into the ruined street, claws flashing, slicing through the Deathclaw's armored shoulders. Sparks erupted where metal met bone, blood spraying across the debris-strewn streets. Piper's camera shook violently as she whispered, He's unreal." Nick Valentine stepped forward, calculating troop positions and flanking possibilities. "Logan, we need to consolidate. Set traps, funnel them through debris, control the battlefield. You can't keep fighting like this forever." Logan's grin widened, amber eyes flashing. "Bub, I don't just fight. I turn the battlefield into my weapon." He leapt atop a Securitron, claws slicing through armored plating, sending sparks flying into the smoky air. The Deathclaw roared, thrashing violently, but Logan's movements were precise, deadly, and unstoppable. Finally, Wolverine stood atop a pile of rubble, surveying the battlefield. The factions had suffered heavy losses. Deathclaws were wounded and retreating. NCR Securitrons were fried. Brotherhood soldiers broken and scattered, and Enclave tech blinked faintly in the distance. Logan's amber eyes glimmered with lethal satisfaction. "All right," he muttered, flexing his claws. "They've learned. They'll come back, bub. And when they do, they'll know who owns this chaos." Piper whispered into her camera, voice shaking. "History. This is history." The lone survivor nodded slowly, awe and terror in his eyes. Nick Valentine adjusted his trench coat, mechanical mind calculating their next moves. And Logan? He stood at the heart of the ruin, unstoppable, alive, and ready for the next storm. The Wasteland had felt the bite of Wolverine, and nothing would ever be the same. The ruins were quiet, but the silence was heavy with smoke, the acrid tang of blood, and the faint hum of smoldering Securitrons. Logan crouched atop a collapsed highway overpass, amber eyes scanning the horizon, claws flexed and ready. The carnage of the last battle still marked the streets. The shredded bodies of Brotherhood soldiers, fried NCR Securitrons, and bloodied Deathclaws littered the concrete. Piper moved carefully behind a wall, camera shaking in her hands, capturing every scar, every detail. "Logan, this is unreal," she whispered. Logan glanced at her, smirk flashing. "Unreal, maybe. Deadly real? Definitely. Welcome to my wasteland, bub." The lone survivor stepped carefully over debris, rifle raised, eyes alert. "They're coming back," he muttered. "All of them. Stronger, faster, smarter." Logan's amber eyes narrowed. "Good. Let them. I'm ready. And if they think this is bad, they haven't seen the worst yet." Nick Valentine emerged from the shadows, trench coat dusted with debris, synthetic eyes scanning every approach. "They've learned from the last fight," he said, voice calm. "Brotherhood, NCR, Enclave, even the Deathclaws. They'll coordinate better this time." Logan's grin widened. "Then coordination's gonna get chewed up, shredded, and spat out. And I'm the teeth." From the distance, faint engine hums signaled vertibirds. Brotherhood reinforcements regrouping behind ruins. NCR Securitrons recalibrated their sensors, moving cautiously this time, while Enclave tech blinked in the shadows, scanning for patterns. Logan flexed his claws, amber eyes glowing in the dusty light. "They're circling," he muttered. "Time to make them regret it." Piper gasped, camera trembling. "Regret it? Logan, you've already destroyed half the city!" Logan's smirk was faint, lethal. "Bub, this is just the warm-up." Suddenly, a massive Deathclaw limped out from the rubble, scarred and angry, its eyes glowing faintly red. Logan's amber gaze flicked toward it. "Persistent little bugger, aren't you?" He leapt, claws flashing, slicing into its shoulder. Sparks flew where adamantium met armored scales, blood spraying across debris-strewn streets. The beast roared, thrashing violently, but Logan twisted mid-air, landing atop it, claws ripping through muscle and bone with surgical precision. Piper whispered in awe, He's insane!" Nick Valentine stepped forward cautiously, analyzing troop positions. "Logan, we need a plan. You can't just charge again. They're setting traps, funneling units. If you rush in blindly..." Logan cut him off with a flick of his claws. "Bub, I don't rush blindly. I make the battlefield work for me." He leapt onto a collapsed vertibird, claws tearing through the landing struts, sending sparks and molten metal scattering. The lone survivor ducked behind cover, muttering, We survived this, right?" Logan glanced at him, amber eyes steady. "Stick close, watch, survive. That's the lesson." From the north, a coordinated squad of Brotherhood soldiers emerged, rifles blazing. Logan twisted mid-air, claws slicing through armor with lethal precision, sparks erupting where adamantium met reinforced plating. A Deathclaw charged from the west, tail smashing debris into flying shrapnel. Logan leapt atop it, claws raking across armored scales, sending the beast crashing into a wall. Piper's camera shook violently. He's not real," she whispered. The lone survivor fired at a flanking Enclave unit, drawing some attention. Logan ducked under a pulse rifle blast, claws flashing, tearing through armored torsos with surgical precision. Sparks erupted, circuitry fried, bodies crumpled. Nick Valentine adjusted his calculations, voice calm but urgent. "Logan, if we control the high ground, funnel the units through the ruins, you can strike efficiently without getting overwhelmed." Logan smirked. "Good thinking, Tin Man. Lead the way." He vaulted onto a pile of rubble, claws extended, amber eyes sweeping the battlefield. Another Deathclaw, larger and more furious than the rest, emerged from the shadows. Logan flexed his claws, muscles coiled. "Persistent, aren't they?" he muttered. He leapt at the creature, claws slicing deep, sparks and blood erupting into the air. The beast thrashed violently, but Logan twisted mid-air, slicing through muscle and reinforced scales with lethal precision. Piper gasped, voice shaking. He's unstoppable." Brotherhood and NCR forces tried to regroup, moving cautiously through the debris-strewn streets. Logan turned the battlefield to his advantage, funneling units into tight kill zones, using fallen Securitrons and twisted steel as weapons. Sparks flew as claws met armor, soldiers screamed, and the Deathclaws staggered, injured but alive. Logan's amber eyes gleamed with lethal satisfaction. "All right, bub, they've learned, and next time they'll learn even harder." Nick Valentine approached, mechanical eyes scanning the battlefield. "Logan, you've changed this wasteland. They'll regroup, come back stronger, and bring everything they've got." Logan flexed his claws, amber eyes steady. "Then let them. I'll be ready. And next time, bub, next time they won't leave alive," Piper whispered into her camera, voice trembling. Everyone's going to see this. Everyone will know." Logan glanced at her, smirk flashing. "Then make sure they do, bub. Let them know who rules this chaos." The lone survivor muttered behind cover, awe and terror in his eyes. Logan's gaze swept the ruined battlefield, amber eyes gleaming. Deathclaws staggered into hiding, faction forces retreated temporarily, and the streets were littered with smoke, sparks, and blood. Wolverine stood at the heart of the ruin, alive, unstoppable, lethal, and fully aware that the consequences of this battle had only just begun. The Wasteland had felt his bite, and now everyone would feel the weight of his legend. The air hung thick with smoke and ozone, acrid and metallic, the scent of blood and scorched metal heavy in the ruins. Logan crouched atop a crumbled highway support, claws extended, amber eyes scanning the horizon. Below him, the Wasteland had begun to stir again. Brotherhood patrols were regrouping, vertibirds circling cautiously, NCR Securitrons recalibrating and moving in formation, while Enclave tech blinked faintly from hidden rooftops, scanning, analyzing, plotting. Wolverine's smirk was faint, lethal. "They think they can push back?" he muttered. "Bub, they've got no idea what's coming." Piper crouched behind a fractured wall, camera trembling. "Logan, they're not waiting this time. They're bringing everything!" Logan glanced at her, amber eyes calm. "Deadly. Good. Let them. I like a challenge." The lone survivor adjusted his rifle, eyes wide as squads of heavily armored Brotherhood soldiers emerged from the shadows, flanked by two massive Deathclaws, each larger than the last. Logan flexed his claws, muscles coiled. "Bub, this is where they learn the cost of underestimating me." Nick Valentine stepped forward, trench coat dusted with debris, mechanical eyes analyzing troop positions. "Logan, this is escalation. They've learned from the last fights. They've coordinated. If you don't move smart, you could get pinned." Logan's grin flashed beneath his beard. "Pinned? Not a chance, Tin Man. I adapt, I survive. And they die." From the distance, vertibirds swooped low, laser cannons glowing. Enclave soldiers advanced cautiously, pulse rifles humming. Logan leapt from the overpass, claws flashing, slashing through a line of Brotherhood soldiers. Sparks erupted where adamantium met reinforced plating. Limbs flew and screams echoed across the streets. The lone survivor ducked behind cover, muttering, We survived this, right?" Logan's amber eyes flicked to him. "Stick close, bub. Learn, survive, and don't get in the way." A massive Deathclaw lunged from a collapsed building, tail smashing debris into flying shrapnel. Logan twisted mid-air, claws raking across armored scales, sending the beast crashing into a pile of rubble. Piper gasped, camera trembling violently. He's insane!" Logan didn't answer. He never did. Survival and dominance was action, and he spoke it fluently. Nick Valentine adjusted his calculations, voice calm but urgent. "Logan, funnel them. Use the ruins. Force them into kill zones. You can't fight everything head-on." Logan smirked, amber eyes gleaming. "Good thinking, Tin Man. Lead the way." He vaulted onto a broken vertibird, claws raking across its landing struts, sending sparks and molten metal into the air. Brotherhood soldiers screamed as the aircraft crashed into the street. From the rooftops, Enclave soldiers fired pulse rifles, energy arcs sizzling across the cracked concrete. Logan ducked, claws flashing, slicing through armored torsos with surgical precision. Sparks erupted, circuitry fried instantly, bodies crumpled. The lone survivor muttered behind cover, We're going to survive, right?" Logan's grin widened. "Bub, survive. Yes. Thrive. Definitely." A second massive Deathclaw charged, jaws snapping, tail smashing concrete. Logan met it head-on, claws raking across armored shoulders. Sparks flew, blood spraying, debris scattering. He twisted mid-air, landing atop the creature, ripping deep into muscle and bone. Piper whispered, voice trembling, He's unstoppable." The Wasteland factions faltered under Logan's tactical dominance. NCR Securitrons collided with Brotherhood squads. Flanking units were funneled into kill zones, and Deathclaws staggered, injured but alive. Logan moved like a predator, amber eyes calculating, claws flashing, muscles coiled. "All right, bub," he muttered. "They've learned. Next time, they won't leave alive." Nick Valentine approached cautiously, mechanical eyes scanning the battlefield. "Logan, they're escalating. This is more than brute force. They're coordinated. Every faction, every Deathclaw, every unit, they've learned from the last assaults. If we don't anticipate, you could be trapped." Logan flexed his claws slowly, amber eyes narrowing. "Then we anticipate, and hit harder." Suddenly, vertibirds swooped from the east, dropping Brotherhood reinforcements. Enclave soldiers fired pulse blasts from rooftops. NCR Securitrons advanced in tight formation. Logan leapt into the middle of the chaos, claws flashing in arcs of lethal precision. Sparks flew, limbs shredded, blood and debris rained across the streets. Piper screamed behind cover, He's unreal! A third Deathclaw, larger and more enraged than the others, charged through a pile of rubble. Logan's amber eyes gleamed, muscles coiled. Persistent little bastard, he muttered. He'd launched at the beast, claws ripping deep into reinforced scales. Sparks and blood erupted in a deadly rain. The lone survivor ducked behind a beam, muttering, We survive, right? Logan glanced at him. Bub, survive. Watch. Learn. Finally, Wolverine stood atop a pile of debris, surveying the battlefield. Sparks from destroyed Securitrons smoldered in the air. Deathclaws staggered but alive, faction forces scattered, bruised, and wary. Logan flexed his claws, amber eyes sweeping the ruins. All right, he muttered, voice low and lethal. They've learned, and next time they come, they'll know who owns this chaos. Piper whispered frantically into her camera, voice shaking. Everyone's going to see this. Everyone will know. Logan glanced at her, smirk flashing. Then make sure they do, bub. Let them know what happens when the Wasteland tests Wolverine. Nick Valentine adjusted his trench coat, mechanical mind calculating next moves. The lone survivor nodded slowly, awe and terror mirrored in his eyes. The Wasteland had felt the bite of Wolverine. Factions would escalate further, Deathclaws would strike with more fury, and chaos was spiraling. But Logan? He stood alive, unstoppable, lethal, and fully aware that the consequences of his domination were just beginning. The Wasteland trembled under the roar of engines, the hum of pulse rifles, and the guttural growls of Deathclaws echoing across the ruined city. Logan crouched atop a collapsed overpass, amber eyes scanning the horizon, claws extended, muscles taut like coiled steel. Vertibirds swooped in formation, their engines whirring, dropping Brotherhood reinforcements. NCR Securitrons rolled forward, sensors glowing, energy rifles tracking every movement. Enclave soldiers fired pulse blasts from hidden rooftops, and from the shadows, two massive Deathclaws emerged, scarred, eyes glowing red with fury. Logan flexed his claws slowly, amber eyes gleaming. Bub, they brought everything. Good, let's see if they can survive it. Piper crouched behind a twisted steel wall, camera trembling, capturing the chaos. Logan, this is insane. All of them, at once. Logan's smirk was faint, but lethal. Exactly, Bub, and that's why I'm here, to remind them what happens when they underestimate me. The lone survivor ducked behind rubble, rifle raised, muttering, We can't survive this. Logan's amber gaze flicked towards him. Stick close, watch, learn, survive. That's all that matters. Nick Valentine emerged from a collapsed alleyway, trench coat dusted with debris, mechanical eyes scanning. Logan, they've coordinated. This isn't random anymore. They've studied your tactics and they're coming together. If you misstep, Logan smirked faintly, claws flexing. Bub, missteps aren't in my vocabulary. I adapt, I survive, and everyone else dies. From the east, vertibirds swooped low, strafing fire cutting across the streets. Brotherhood soldiers emerged in tight formations, energy rifles blazing. NCR Securitrons advanced in unison, firing bursts of heavy rounds. Enclave pulse rifles hummed from rooftops, scanning for openings. Logan launched himself into the fray, claws flashing like living steel. Sparks erupted as adamantium met reinforced plating, limbs shredded, screams echoed across the streets. Piper whispered, voice trembling, He's unreal! A massive Deathclaw charged from the north, tail smashing debris, jaws snapping. Logan twisted mid-air, claws raking across armored shoulders, sending the beast crashing into a pile of rubble. Sparks flew, blood sprayed. The creature thrashed violently but couldn't land a blow. The lone survivor muttered, We survived this, right?" Logan's amber eyes met his. "Bub, survive, watch, learn." Nick Valentine adjusted his calculations, voice calm but urgent. "Logan, funnel them. Use the debris, the ruined buildings, force them into choke points. They'll overwhelm you if you don't control the terrain." Logan smirked, muscles coiling. "Good thinking, Tin Man. Lead the way." He vaulted onto a collapsed vertibird, claws raking through its struts, sending sparks and molten metal flying. Brotherhood soldiers screamed as the aircraft crashed, scattering rubble across the streets. The second Deathclaw reared from the shadows, massive and furious. Logan flexed his claws, muscles tensing. "Persistent little bastard, aren't you?" He launched, claws ripping deep into armored scales, sparks erupting, blood spraying into the air. Piper gasped, camera shaking. He's insane!" Enclave soldiers tried to flank him from rooftops, pulse rifles blasting. Logan twisted mid-air, claws flashing, slicing through armored torsos with surgical precision. Sparks erupted, circuitry fried instantly, soldiers fell. The lone survivor ducked behind cover, muttering, We're going to survive, right?" Logan's grin widened. "Bub, survive, watch, learn, and remember why chaos follows me." Vertibirds swooped again, dropping additional reinforcements. Logan met them mid-air, claws raking through rotors, sending sparks and metal raining down. A Deathclaw lunged from the west, jaws snapping, tail smashing concrete. Logan twisted mid-air, slicing through its shoulders, leaving deep, smoking gashes. Sparks erupted where adamantium met reinforced bone, blood spraying across the streets. Nick Valentine calculated firing angles, troop positions, and choke points. "Logan, if we coordinate, use the ruins, and control the battlefield, you can survive this." "But they're relentless." Logan flexed his claws, amber eyes glowing. "Relentless? Perfect. I like a challenge. They'll learn the cost of testing me." Finally, the third Deathclaw appeared, massive, scarred, eyes blazing red, drawn by the carnage. Logan launched at it, claws flashing, ripping deep into muscle and bone. Sparks and blood erupted in a deadly rain. The battlefield trembled under the clash of claws, metal, and roaring beasts. Piper whispered frantically, voice shaking, I can't. This isn't real." Logan vaulted atop a pile of debris, surveying the battlefield. Sparks from destroyed Securitrons smoldered in the air. Deathclaws staggered, faction forces faltered but persisted, wary of the unstoppable predator that had turned the Wasteland against them. Amber eyes glinted. "All right, bub, they've learned, and when they come again, they'll regret it." The lone survivor nodded slowly, awe and fear etched into his face. Nick Valentine adjusted his trench coat, mechanical mind calculating the next moves. Piper whispered into her camera, voice trembling. Everyone's going to see this. Everyone will know." Logan glanced at her, smirk flashing. "Then make sure they do, bub. Let them know the cost of underestimating Wolverine." The Wasteland had escalated. Factions would strike again, Deathclaws would fight harder, and chaos spiraled. But Logan? He stood alive, unstoppable, lethal, and fully aware that the true storm was only beginning. The Wasteland trembled like it had never trembled before. Smoke and dust churned across the cracked streets, the acrid tang of blood and molten metal heavy in the air. Logan crouched atop a collapsed overpass, amber eyes glowing, claws extended, muscles taut and ready. Vertibirds screamed across the sky. Brotherhood soldiers advanced with disciplined precision. NCR Securitrons recalibrated their targeting systems, and Enclave pulse rifles hummed ominously from rooftops. In the shadows, two massive Deathclaws, scarred and furious, prowled, muscles rippling. Logan flexed his claws slowly, amber eyes calculating. "Bub, they've brought everything. Good, let's see if they can survive it." Piper crouched behind debris, camera trembling violently, filming the approaching storm. "Logan, all of them. Every faction." "It's insane," Logan smirked faintly. "Lethal." "Exactly, Bub. That's why I'm here. To show them why chaos follows Wolverine." The lone survivor crouched behind a crumbling wall, rifle at the ready, eyes wide. We can't survive this." Logan's amber gaze flicked to him. "Stick close, watch, learn, survive. That's the only way out alive." Nick Valentine emerged from a shattered alley, trench coat dusted with debris, mechanical eyes calculating troop positions. "Logan, this is full-scale escalation. Every faction is coordinated. If you misstep, you could be pinned." Logan's grin widened, claws flexing. "Pinned? Not in my vocabulary, bub. I adapt. I survive. And they die." From the east, vertibirds swooped low, dropping Brotherhood reinforcements. Enclave soldiers fired pulse rifles from rooftops, energy arcs sizzling. NCR Securitrons advanced in synchronized lines. Logan leapt from the overpass, claws flashing like living steel, tearing through armored torsos, sparks flying where adamantium met reinforced plating. Limbs flew, screams echoed across the streets. Piper whispered, voice trembling, He's unreal." A massive Deathclaw charged from the north, tail smashing debris, jaws snapping. Logan twisted mid-air, claws raking across armored shoulders, sending the beast crashing into a pile of rubble. Sparks and blood sprayed in every direction. The lone survivor muttered, We survive this, right?" Logan's amber eyes met his. "Bub, survive, watch, learn, and don't get in the way." Nick Valentine adjusted his calculations, voice calm but urgent. "Funnel them, Logan. Use the debris, the broken buildings, force them into choke points. They'll overwhelm you if you don't control the terrain." Logan smirked, muscles coiling. "Good thinking, Tin Man. Lead the way." He vaulted atop a collapsed vertibird, claws raking through landing struts, sending sparks and molten metal raining across the battlefield. Brotherhood soldiers screamed as the aircraft crashed. Another Deathclaw reared from the shadows, massive and enraged. Logan flexed his claws, muscles tensing. "Persistent little bastard, aren't you?" He launched at the beast, claws ripping deep into armored scales, sparks erupting into the smoky air, blood spraying across the streets. Piper gasped, camera shaking violently. He's insane!" Enclave soldiers tried to flank him from rooftops. Logan twisted mid-air, claws flashing, slicing through torsos with surgical precision. Sparks erupted, circuitry fried, soldiers crumpled. The lone survivor ducked behind cover, muttering, We're going to survive, right?" Logan's grin widened. "Bub, survive, watch, learn, and remember why chaos follows me." Vertibirds swooped again, dropping additional reinforcements. Logan met them mid-air, claws raking through rotors, sending sparks and metal raining down. A Deathclaw lunged from the west, jaws snapping, tail smashing concrete. Logan twisted, claws raking across its shoulders, leaving deep smoking gashes. Sparks erupted where adamantium met reinforced bone, blood spraying. Finally, a third Deathclaw appeared, massive, scarred, eyes blazing red, drawn by the carnage. Logan launched at it, claws flashing, ripping deep into muscle and bone. Sparks and blood erupted in a deadly rain. The battlefield trembled under the clash of claws, metal, and roaring beasts. Piper whispered frantically, voice shaking, I can't. This isn't real." Logan vaulted atop a pile of debris, surveying the battlefield. Sparks from destroyed Securitrons smoldered, Deathclaws staggered, faction forces faltered but persisted, wary of the unstoppable predator who had turned the Wasteland against them. Amber eyes glinted. "All right, bub. They've learned, and when they come again, they'll regret it." The lone survivor nodded slowly, awe and fear etched into his face. Nick Valentine adjusted his trench coat, mechanical mind calculating the next moves. Piper whispered into her camera, voice trembling, Everyone's going to see this. Everyone will know." Logan glanced at her, smirk flashing. "Then make sure they do, bub. Let them know the cost of underestimating Wolverine." From the sky, a sudden rip in the fabric of reality appeared, a shimmering interdimensional tear. Logan froze, amber eyes narrowing, claws flexing instinctively. The battlefield paused for a heartbeat as a figure stepped through. Blink from the X-Men, eyes glowing with controlled portals, stepping gracefully onto the debris-strewn street. "Logan!" she called, voice cutting through the chaos. "Time to go home. You've made your point here. We've got you!" Logan's smirk softened faintly, exhaustion and relief mingling beneath the lethal grin. Finally, someone with manners. The Wasteland factions hesitated, Deathclaws growling, soldiers frozen as the portal pulsed. Logan took one last sweeping glance at the ruined streets, at Piper filming, at Nick calculating the next moves, at the lone survivor gripping his rifle. "Bub, remember this. You survived, learned, and the Wasteland belongs to the stories they'll tell." He stepped toward the portal, Blink holding it steady. Amber eyes flicked one final time to the chaos he'd wrought, claws retracting slowly. Then, in a flash of light and a ripple of reality, Wolverine vanished. Vertibirds hovered aimlessly, Deathclaws snarled confusedly, and the factions realized their battlefield had been emptied of its unstoppable predator. Piper lowered her camera, speechless, capturing the last traces of smoke and chaos. Nick Valentine muttered softly, "The Wasteland will never be the same." The lone survivor nodded, awestruck. The legend had left, but the aftermath, the fear, and the stories remained. The dust settled over the Wasteland, thick and choking, acrid with the tang of molten metal and scorched blood. The battlefield lay in ruin, twisted steel and shattered concrete littering the streets, scorched craters marking where Deathclaws had fallen or fled, and where Brotherhood, NCR, and Enclave forces had barely survived. Piper crouched atop a collapsed building, camera trembling in her hands, capturing the aftermath of the chaos Wolverine had wrought. It's over," she whispered, barely able to breathe. The streets were silent, save for distant groans of injured soldiers and the faint whine of broken Securitrons trying to recalibrate. Logan crouched on a pile of rubble, amber eyes sweeping the horizon one last time. Claws retracted, he flexed his fingers, muscles tense but slowly relaxing. The carnage behind him was staggering, and yet he moved with the same calm, deadly confidence that had carried him through every battle. "Bub, they'll remember this," he muttered, voice low, lethal. "Every scratch, every bite, every shred of chaos. They'll remember who rules this mess." The lone survivor stepped forward cautiously, rifle lowered, eyes wide with awe. "Logan, you did it. You survived all of it, every faction, every Deathclaw." Logan's amber gaze flicked to him, muscles coiled like steel springs. "Survived? Maybe. Dominated? Definitely. And you, bub, remember what you've seen. Learn it. Survive it. That's the only way out alive." Nick Valentine emerged from a collapsed alleyway, trench coat dusted with debris, mechanical eyes calculating the ruins. "Logan, they'll regroup eventually. Brotherhood, NCR, Enclave. They'll remember your name. The Wasteland won't forget what happened here." Logan smirked faintly, amber eyes glowing. "Then let them remember. Legends are meant to be feared, bub. And I'm a living legend." Piper's camera shook as she whispered, He's not just a man, he's... She trailed off, eyes wide, voice trembling. Logan chuckled softly, flexing his claws, muscles relaxing. "Bub, legends don't need explanations. They make history." From above, the shimmering rip in reality pulsed again. Blink stepped through the interdimensional portal, eyes glowing, motion fluid and precise. "Logan," she called, voice cutting through the ruins. "Time to go. Your mission here is done." Logan stood slowly, amber eyes scanning the battlefield one final time. Brotherhood soldiers were regrouping cautiously. Deathclaws had fled into the rubble, and the remnants of the Enclave and NCR forces lingered, calculating their losses. "Finally, someone with manners," Logan muttered, a faint grin beneath his beard. Piper's eyes widened. "Wait, you're leaving? Just like that?" Logan's amber gaze flicked toward her. "Bub, I came here to survive, dominate, and leave a mark. That's done. Time to go home." The lone survivor muttered softly. You could have stayed. Helped us." Logan shook his head slowly, muscles relaxing further, claws retracting completely. "Bub, this isn't my home. I don't belong here. But I'll leave a lesson behind. Chaos follows me, and legends survive." Nick Valentine's mechanical eyes scanned the portal, calculating risks. "You're going back to your realm? Just like that?" Logan flexed his claws lightly, amber eyes calm. "Yeah, but remember, bub, any time the Wasteland thinks it's safe, they'll feel the bite of Wolverine again, and next time, it won't be pretty." Blink gestured, the portal shimmering wider. Logan stepped forward, muscles coiled, amber eyes glinting one last time at the ruined streets, at Piper filming every scarred corner, at Nick calculating what would happen next, and at the lone survivor gripping his rifle, awestruck. "Bub, remember this. Survive. Learn. And maybe don't get in my way next time." With a powerful leap, Wolverine sprang through the shimmering portal, the world of radiation, chaos, and Deathclaws disappearing behind him. The light pulsed, crackling with energy, and then he was gone. Piper lowered her camera, hands trembling, eyes wide as she whispered, He really did it. He survived. He dominated." The lone survivor muttered softly, "The Wasteland. It'll never be the same." Nick Valentine adjusted his trench coat, mechanical mind already calculating the aftermath. "Legends don't leave quietly," he said. "They leave history." The battlefield lay silent now, except for the faint groans of injured and retreating factions. Sparks smoldered in the dust-filled air, scorch marks glimmered faintly, and the Wasteland slowly began to absorb the chaos Wolverine had unleashed. Piper whispered almost reverently, "The stories, everyone's going to tell the stories." The lone survivor nodded, eyes wide, awestruck. "Yeah, stories and warnings." Above, the portal shimmered faintly before closing completely, leaving only the ruins behind. Logan was gone, but his presence lingered in every scar, every twisted metal beam, every terrified Deathclaw that had survived. The Wasteland would remember, the factions would regroup, the Deathclaws would hunt, and chaos would always whisper his name. Wolverine had left, but the legend remained, indelible, unstoppable, eternal. The smoke hung low over the ruins, curling lazily across shattered streets and twisted steel beams, carrying with it the faint tang of blood, burnt metal, and ozone. Piper moved cautiously through the wreckage, camera still in hand, capturing every detail. Her eyes were wide, hands trembling. I don't even know how to describe it, she whispered, voice barely audible over the distant groans of retreating soldiers and Deathclaws limping into hiding. The Wasteland had changed. Everything had changed. The lone survivor picked his way through debris, rifle slung over his shoulder, eyes scanning for threats that were no longer there. The silence was heavy, almost unnatural, like the world itself was holding its breath. He didn't just fight, the lone survivor muttered. He left a message. We'll never forget this. Piper nodded, camera still recording. Everyone's going to know. Everyone's going to tell the story. Nick Valentine emerged from a collapsed building, trench coat dusted with dust and soot, mechanical eyes scanning the horizon. The Wasteland, it stabilized for now, he said, voice calm but edged with awe. The factions are shaken. Brotherhood will regroup. NCR will tighten control, and the Enclave. Well, they'll be more cautious than ever. And Deathclaws, his synthetic eyes flicked toward the shadows, where massive forms limped away. They've learned to fear what stalks them. Piper's gaze lingered on the horizon, where the ruins of vertebrates lay smoking, Securitron sparking, and debris smoldered. He changed everything, she whispered. Not just the battle. The rules. The fear. The way people think about survival. The lone survivor lowered his rifle, leaning on a twisted beam, awe and disbelief etched into every line of his face. Yeah, the Wasteland's not the same anymore, not after him. Nick adjusted his trench coat, eyes scanning the ruined streets for lingering threats. This isn't just a story for the survivors, he said quietly. It's a warning. Legends like him, they leave marks that don't fade. Even if he's gone, even if the world forgets his face, the scars remain. The memory remains. Piper's camera trembled in her hands. And the stories, she whispered. They'll tell the stories for generations. From a pile of rubble, a lone Deathclaw stirred, massive claws scraping against cracked concrete. It paused, amber eyes reflecting distant sunlight, almost wary, almost respectful. The lone survivor stepped back, muttering softly, even them, they know. Nick nodded slowly. Fear, respect, survival. He left all three. Piper moved closer to the rubble-strewn streets, eyes lingering on every charred corner, every splintered wall. Do you think he'll ever come back? She asked, voice trembling. The lone survivor shook his head. I don't know. Maybe. But legends, they don't need to come back. They're already here. Nick Valentine's mechanical eyes flickered faintly. He didn't just survive the Wasteland, he reshaped it. Every faction, every survivor, they've been altered, the rules have changed. The Predator has left, but his presence remains. The streets were eerily quiet now, save for the distant groans of injured and fleeing factions. Sparks smoldered in the dust-filled air, scorch marks glimmered faintly, and shadows of twisted steel stretched long across the cracked concrete. Piper's camera captured the scene, hands trembling. History. We're witnessing history. The lone survivor nodded, rifle lowered. Yeah, history. And a warning. Nick Valentine adjusted his trench coat, synthetic eyes flicking toward the horizon. "The Wasteland will rebuild," he said softly. "Factions will regroup. Deathclaws will hunt again, but everything they do, every move, every strategy, will be measured against what they saw today. Wolverine, Logan, he didn't just fight. He taught them all a lesson they'll never forget." Piper whispered into her camera, voice almost reverent. Everyone will know. They'll tell the story. They'll know what happens when chaos walks into their world, and who survives it." The lone survivor looked out over the ruined streets, silence heavy in the air. "And next time, if someone like him comes again, we'll remember, we'll survive, maybe even fight back." Nick Valentine's gaze lingered on the horizon where the light of the portal had shimmered earlier, fading slowly. "He's gone for now," Nick muttered, voice calm but edged with awe. "But the Wasteland, it'll never be the same. And anyone who underestimates legends like him, they'll pay the price." The camera captured the last traces of smoke rising from the battlefield, twisted steel reflecting the fading light and the distant shadows of retreating Deathclaws. Piper lowered her camera, voice trembling, whispering, "The Wasteland. It's alive with his legend." The lone survivor nodded slowly, eyes wide, awestruck. "Yeah, alive. And it'll be remembered." The silence settled over the ruins, heavy but tempered with awe. The echoes of battle lingered, the scars of chaos permanent. The Wasteland had survived, but it had changed. And in that change, Logan's presence remained, indelible, unstoppable, unforgettable. The portal shimmered like liquid steel in the fading Wasteland sun, pulsating with a soft, otherworldly glow. Logan crouched on a pile of rubble, amber eyes sweeping the scarred streets one last time. Twisted metal, scorched concrete, and shattered Securitrons reflected the chaos he had unleashed. Every battle, every Deathclaw, every faction defeated or driven into retreat, etched into the ruins. He flexed his claws slowly, muscles taut, senses alive to every vibration in the cracked streets. "Bub, this place, it'll remember me," he muttered, voice low, lethal. "And so will they." Piper's camera lingered on him, hands trembling. You're leaving?" she whispered, disbelief and awe blending in her voice. Logan's amber gaze flicked to her, smirk flashing faintly beneath his beard. "Yeah, bub, time to go home. I came, I survived, I dominated. Lessons delivered. Chaos checked off the list." The lone survivor stepped forward cautiously, rifle lowered, eyes wide with awe. You really are a legend. They'll never forget this." Logan flexed his claws lightly, retracting them, muscles relaxing just enough to exude calm. "They'll remember, bub, and if they forget, I'll make sure they don't." Nick Valentine emerged from a pile of rubble, mechanical eyes scanning the battlefield one last time. "The Wasteland, it won't be the same. Brotherhood, NCR, Enclave, Deathclaws, all of it. They've been reshaped. Your presence, it changed everything." Logan smirked faintly. "Exactly. That's the point, bub. Survival, dominance, legends. They don't leave quietly. They leave marks." Blink stepped forward from the portal, eyes glowing, hand extended. "Logan," she called, voice calm and precise. "It's time. You've done what you needed to do here. There's nothing more for you. Come home." Logan's amber eyes flicked to the shimmering tear, muscles coiling, then relaxing. "Finally, someone with manners," he muttered. He looked over the battlefield one last time, Piper filming, Nick calculating, the lone survivor gripping his rifle, and the distant shadows of retreating Deathclaws. Bub, remember this. Survive, learn, and don't ever forget. Chaos follows me. The lone survivor nodded slowly, awestruck. I won't. Not ever. Piper whispered into her camera, voice trembling. Everyone will know. They'll tell the stories. Logan's smirk widened. Good. Let 'em tell stories. Legends aren't born. They're remembered. He leapt toward the portal, claws flexed and retracting in a fluid motion, muscles coiled with lethal precision. The wasteland seemed to pause for a heartbeat, smoke curling lazily, sparks from destroyed Securitrons smoldering, the air heavy with blood and ozone. The factions hesitated in disbelief, Deathclaws frozen mid-step, Brotherhood and NCR soldiers lowering weapons, Enclave tech blinking uncertainly. Logan was gone. In a flash of interdimensional light, he vanished through the portal, leaving only the echo of claws slicing steel and the memory of a predator who had dominated a world not his own. Piper lowered her camera slowly, hands shaking, eyes wide with awe. He really did it. He survived. He dominated. The lone survivor muttered softly, voice low, reverent. The wasteland. It'll never be the same. Not after him. Nick Valentine adjusted his trench coat, synthetic eyes flicking across the battlefield. Legends don't fade, he said softly. They leave scars, stories, warnings, and Wolverine, Logan, left all three. The wasteland was quiet now, eerily so, save for the faint groans of injured and retreating factions. Sparks smoldered, scorch marks gleamed faintly in the dust-filled light, and twisted steel cast long shadows across the cracked concrete. Piper whispered almost reverently, "The stories. Everyone's going to tell the stories." The lone survivor nodded, still gripping his rifle. "Yeah, stories, warnings, and lessons. About chaos, about legends." Nick Valentine's mechanical eyes lingered on the horizon, scanning the distance where the portal had pulsed before fading entirely. "He's gone, but he's here," Nick muttered quietly. "In every scar, every Deathclaw that survived, every soldier that trembles at the memory, the legend remains." Piper exhaled slowly, voice trembling. He changed everything, even in just a short time. The streets, though silent, seemed alive with the weight of what had transpired. Sparks from destroyed Securitrons glimmered faintly. The ground bore the scars of claws and artillery, and every shadow whispered the name of Wolverine. The lone survivor stepped over debris, glancing at twisted steel and broken concrete. "He didn't just fight," he muttered. "He left out. Everything changed. For all of us." Nick Valentine's synthetic eyes flickered softly, surveying the wasteland one last time. Survival. Fear. Respect. Stories. Legends, he said quietly. Logan left all of them. And the wasteland. It'll never forget him. Piper lowered her camera, voice shaking. "No, not ever." The lone survivor nodded slowly, eyes wide, awestruck. The predator, the legend, gone. But the memory, it'll live forever. And somewhere across dimensions, Logan landed softly on solid ground, muscles relaxing, amber eyes scanning the new horizon of his own realm. The chaos of the wasteland was behind him, the lesson delivered, the story written. He flexed his claws slowly, a faint smirk beneath his beard. "Bub, mission complete. Time to see what's next."